Recording in progress.
Great. Well, welcome and thank you all for being here. My name is Rich Ennis, and I would like to call the Lewes Planning Commission to order on Wednesday, July 16th at 6:30 p.m. We've got a full agenda tonight, as we often do, and so we're going to try to work through this expeditiously tonight. At the outset, I just want to mention a couple of housekeeping notes, and that is that following the lead of our illustrious City Council, we have decided to put a suggested time frame for each of the discussion items that we have. And it's working out well for the City Council, and I have confidence it will work out well for us as well. I want to emphasize that it is a suggested time frame, so that if we do need to go over that, we can, but that we would like the discipline of sticking within or under the 2-hour limit that we have set for a target for our meetings. And this is because it is not. I want to just emphasize and be very clear. This is not to limit discussion or for anybody to on the commission or the public to not have the ability to express themselves fully. What it is so that we can get our work done. We have a lot of work that we have responsibility to do for this community, and this is designed to help us accomplish that. So at any rate, the other housekeeping note that I just want to mention is that our great solicitor seated to my left here, Alex Burns, has kindly agreed to brief the Planning Commission at our next meeting, and we'll have a discussion about when that will be, because it may be in September. We'll get to that as we go through the agenda. But at that, Alex is going to brief us, and a couple of the commissioners have made this point, a very good one. We need to be reminded of the rules governing FOIA, of the of process and bylaws, of public comment, how we go about that. A lot of us know it, but even those of us who know it can stand reminding, and this is why we have good counsel in order to be able to do that. So that will be at the beginning of the next meeting, and if anyone has anything to add to that. The only third housekeeping note that I'm going to make is that there has been a good discussion about us having the ability to put things on the agenda, and so what I would ask is, and just to let everyone know, that the Monday, the week before we have our Planning Commission meetings, the city planner and the vice chair and myself and our great liaison with the city council have a meeting to discuss what goes on to the agenda, and our council joins that as well when appropriate and when possible. So if anyone has an agenda item. And we can't have more than that on that for FOIA reasons. That'll be one of the things that we hear about when we get a briefing from Alex. So if anyone has an agenda item that they would like to get on the agenda for the following, from there, it's 10 days from that Monday till we have our meeting. Please get that to Vice Chair Keene, myself, our city planner Janelle. If you and strongly prefer it to be in writing, that really helps a great deal. But if you can get it to us sometime in advance of that Monday, the week before, then we can discuss it and see whether or not there is room on the agenda, prioritize, it will be a part of the discussion. And I just want to say, and I think everyone knows this, we're very collegial on this commission. And so anybody that wants to bring up a topic, if it's a salient and important, we will endeavor to do everything we can to get that onto the agenda. So this is meant to be very inclusive. So anyway, so those are housekeeping notes. And before I proceed, anything further anyone would like to add to that, or far beyond my abilities to add or detract? So, great, well, thank you. Moving right into the agenda then, I make a point of reading all of the minutes now, which I'll confess I didn't do before I was chair, but I do now. And I gotta say, my hat is off to the staff, because they do a darn good job on it. If anybody has any questions or additions they want to make to the minutes, please speak now.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from the date of 6/18.
So, right, because we have a couple of minutes here, right? So there's, we have the LPC meeting for June 18th. That's when you're talking about?
Yes.
Commissioner Evald, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Great, so moved, thank you. Moving to our second minutes here. This is the Housing Subcommittee meeting from May 13th. Any additions or would anyone like to say anything about those minutes?
Yes, I would just like to say that these minutes, this is more than accepting minutes. This was done a year ago. This is a larger decision about whether we are going to unearth an already passed ordinance and tweak it. I think the minutes that I'm going to quote the minutes with my own quote, because it's the best response. This was my, pardon me while I get back into the minutes from LPC. As was quoted in the minutes for the Lewes Planning Commission on June 18th, when this topic was brought up, I am the only person still sitting on the Planning Commission who worked on this issue. Bob Heffernan is now on the BPW. I have not talked to Mr. Davis, but I'm sure he would be at our, at our disposal to assist. And I'm sorry, I had this right up in front of me. This is terrible. Well, I'm not going to pull it out of, I'm not going to read it off then. All right. Basically, this issue came up. We're looking now at minutes that are a year old that have already been accepted.
No, they haven't. These minutes were never approved, which is why they are now on the Planning Commission's agenda, because this is the last meeting of the Housing Committee, which means the Housing Committee never approved their minutes.
Our final minutes.
The final minutes.
All right.
And you'll notice that as the city is trying to get some subcommittees didn't do their minutes as diligently as others. So as we find those, we are bringing them forward to get them approved. This has nothing to do with ordinances or the subcommittee.
So this is not bringing back up this topic.
It is approving the last set of minutes from the subcommittee that the subcommittee couldn't approve, because then they would have had to have another meeting and they would have had another set of minutes.
Okay. And that would have been difficult since
yes.
no one but myself is on the Planning Commission.
Yeah, we're just going through
okay,
and
well
finding...
then I'm just going to make a motion to accept those minutes.
I'll second that. Great. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Great. Thank you. Good. So now we're on to unfinished business. Discussion and possible recommendations to mayor and city council regarding the bylaws. And you may recall that one of our very good commissioners had suggested and proposed language to amend the bylaws regarding public comment and timing for that. We are following the suit again of the city council on this one. Or maybe the city council is following our suit. But regardless, everyone has had a chance to read these. They're not long. It's a very, very short and to the point. Any discussion on this at all
Mr.
before
Chairman?
we move forward? Yes.
In the spirit of sticking within your time frame or suggested time frame, I won't go over the discussion that we had a couple of months ago when I first presented an earlier version of this. I do want to go back a little bit and talk about a couple of changes that I suggested in light of the discussion that we had. First, Commissioner Wolf suggested the deletion of the word briefly in the last sentence, so that word no longer appears. Second, at the suggestion of Councilmember Ritzert, we had a fairly extended discussion about the concept of an individual spokesperson being able to basically have several members of the public yield their 3-minute allotted time to a single individual to serve as a spokesperson for that group of individuals. I wrestled a little bit with this concept because at the conclusion of that discussion, there was some talk about a total of 20 minutes. And as I thought about it some more, I was trying to figure out a balance between, on the one hand, fairness to organizations that have long existed and who we have traditionally given 5 minutes to, and on the other hand, the efficiency of Councilmember Ritzert's idea of letting a group of people all yield their 3 minutes to one person, and not having 4, 5, 6 people basically get up and repeat the same thing. In looking for a way to strike that balance, I suggest that we come up with the idea of, or what I suggested here was come up with the idea of having up to 4 individuals be able to yield their 3 minutes and give that spokesperson a total of 10 minutes. And it seems to me that that's a fair way of not denigrating long existing organizations while at the same time creating some efficiency in the process. I'm not wedded to the number 4. I'm not wedded to 10 minutes. If people have other ideas, I'm completely flexible about that. But it seemed to me that that struck a fair balance between those two. So I put those items in parentheses if people have other ideas, but that's the proposal that I put before the commission.
Alan, I think it's a good idea. I mean, in general, I support the amendment as written. Just for clarification standpoint, though, organizations, representing organizations. How do we define organizations as far as people who are then able to stand up and have 5 minutes to speak as opposed to individuals who are limited to 3? And how is that made on the spur of the moment? I mean, how is the chair to judge whether or not this person represents an organization as opposed to simply representing 3 people in the neighborhood? I mean, how do you make that judgment?
I don't have a good answer for that. In the past, it's, you know, what's interesting is that, you know, the way it's described in the agenda, it's, the agenda says limit the length of time an applicant has to present their application and limit the length of time for public comments. It really isn't, we're not really limiting so much as codifying what has been the practice of the commission, but I'm not aware personally of any instance in which it's been other than the chair's discretion
Yeah.
to recognize an individual as representing an organization.
And by organizations, you mean HOAs or something along those lines, something, a more formal organization are you talking about? I mean, I like the idea of what you're doing here a lot. I just, for clarifications, I'm imagining me sitting in Rich's seat while this is going on, trying to figure out whether or not the person standing up gets 3 or 5 minutes.
So,
So
Could
I would say, for an example, when Overfalls came to present to us about the addition, they had one spokesman for the organization. So that's an example of what I think this is saying.
Those are clear. I mean, there are some clear ones,
So-
but there are some that are not so clear.
and something you can do in before is set, and you can read some guidelines, and you'll see that happening at council meetings and council public hearings, is saying, these are the rules and regulations for the public hearings, and you get this many minutes. And typically, if people do come up and are speaking on behalf of an organization, they typically state that. And some people say, I'm just representing myself, I'm not representing that
Yeah, I understand.
organization.
That's-
So I think you can put that, like, before you get into the public hearing,
And I think
you can put that.
You can defer to solicitors to determine whether or not it's 3 or 5, right?
And I would ask both our good city council liaison and also Alex to just make a comment before we make a motion.
Absolutely. I would just, adding to this item, I would say a broad view of what an organization is would probably be a better thing to do. You don't want to get in the business of excluding certain comments based on, if it's an informal organization or not. So it would be a judgment call on the chair's part, but generally the key is that the content of their speech would not be regulated. So as long as you're thinking about it reasonably, you'd be good.
I would just like to make a comment.
Do we,
No, please, go ahead.
Oh,
go ahead.
No, please.
I think it's hard to differentiate, and whether it's fair or not, because my organization could simply be me and my neighbor, Mr. Ritzert, and we don't like what's going on the street, so we're forming an organization. But Mr. Poira down the street does not agree. So he's not part of the organization. It's a possibility. Something like that could happen realistically. So I would hesitate to make that differentiation because it's not clear cut. I do like the idea of allotting the time to individuals, and some people are more organized than others. So, that gives everyone a voice, and I think differentiating between, well, they're an organization and they're a citizen, I'm not quite comfortable with that because I think it's a hard line to draw.
Councilman, before you go, Councilman Rickard, can I just make an observation? I think we're belaboring this a bit, but it says up to 4 individuals may yield their allotted 3 minutes to a designated spokesman, and that sentence doesn't talk about an organization at all. So individuals who are neighbors can easily do this and say, I'd like my neighbor to speak on my behalf.
Yeah.
They don't have to be an organization.
Right.
So I think we're spinning around here.
Yeah.
Let's go.
No, I think you might even strike the organizations from it, because the idea of yielding your time sort of accomplishes the same purpose, right? The idea that there's 4 people here who want to yield their time, maybe they represent an organization or maybe they don't, but it's not up to the chair to determine whether or not they do. If they want to yield their time, they get extra time. That's the only thing we really need here, right?
I would, just to respond to Kevin, I was, with respect to individuals and organizations, I was simply trying to codify what has been long existing practice.
I would be more
Can
inclined
I just
to give
remind people, they need to seek recognition from the chair. I'm just trying to keep some semblance of order here, not trying to cut anybody off. Commissioner.
Chairman.
Yes.
I would just lean towards giving people another minute or two. In the big scheme of things, how many people do we really have come up and speak? And they are the people who live in this community, and they have as much right as we do, except for we're taking on this job,
Right.
So I would lean more towards just give people 5 minutes. And then some people aren't going to use it. Some people are going to be like, oh, I'm not quite done. But at least no one feels like they didn't have a voice, and that's something I never want to see in Lewes.
Well, this has been a good discussion. Please,
Thank you. I'm going to
Councilman
probably
Richard.
throw a wrench in the works, and it's not to quiet you all or, dismiss this action that you all are considering. But I am going to draw attention to the fact that in the first sentence, you speak about this proposed amendment would apply only to public hearing. And do you mean that literally, or do you, so when you have a regular meeting with a presentation from an applicant, these would not apply at that point in time, is that correct?
That's a very good distinction, because the city council meetings that I've sat through have used the timer, which goes up on the screen here, to very good purpose, I think. It has introduced some discipline.
Correct.
But those are not always just public hearings, as far as I'm
Right,
aware.
and our legal counsel has encouraged us, and his predecessor too, about the importance and the distinction between a hearing and a meeting. And in the context of the kind of work that you do, the subject matter that you do work with, I'm gonna leave it to our city solicitor to speak to this.
Yeah, I believe the intent here was for public hearings, because an applicant would be at a public hearing.
Okay, so.
For this,
It's
so-
understood, then in that case, you understand the distinction that's being drawn here.
Right,
Right?
I do.
So when the applicant would come to you for the very first time and speak, these rules would not apply. He could have many more minutes than 20 or many less,
At a meeting.
right? And is that what you all are trying to accomplish?
Let me just, going a little further down the agenda here.
Okay.
I'm sorry, this is such in the weeds of the process. We are going to discuss revisiting, as we are required to do, I understand, every year,
Right.
our bylaws.
Right.
And I think at that time, we need to parse out whether or not this is just public hearings, and whether or not we want it to apply to meetings, and whether that would differ from public hearings. But I think for the purpose of what we're trying to accomplish today, my sense is that we've had some very good comments here. I would like to see if anyone wants to propose the motion, changes to the motion. Let's get a motion on the table and let's vote on this. This is just good, this is good house cleaning
Yep.
stuff. So let's just,
Yeah, I make a motion that we would accept the amendment to the bylaws as written.
is there a second on that?
I would like to make a second and with a friendly amendment, that we accept this application with the deletion of the representing the organizations, and just change it to, during public comment on such applications, person shall have up to 5 minutes to speak.
Did
Et
we
cetera,
get
et cetera,
those
leaving the rest of it
changes?
the same. Yes.
So the same right is extended to, or privilege is
Yes.
extended to everyone.
Yeah.
That's ask.
No, I'll support that. I think it's a good idea, Deb.
So we have a
Mr.
You
second.
need to get
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Wolf to
Yes.
accept the friendly amendment.
That's
Yes, Mr.
Chairman.
Wolf?
And then.
No,
Commissioner-
I don't, I have a differing view of it, that's all, so I'm not, if someone else wants to go for it to be amended, that's, I think that's.
So procedurally, what
So
do we
then
do
you could-
now?
You can vote on whether there's an amendment, so you need a majority vote to amend the initial motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please.
let me just make the observation that without at this moment expressing an opinion on the proposed friendly amendment, which apparently isn't that friendly, it isn't as, the way the text is written, it's not as simple as just striking those two words, because there's another clause at the end of that sentence that would also have to be deleted.
Okay. Right.
So I think what you want to do is see if there's a second to Mr. Wolf's motion.
Right. Without a friendly amendment.
Yeah, I'll second Mr. Wolf's motion.
There you go.
Okay. So there, and can I just say to Commissioner Evald and others, we are going to revisit the bylaws in total, which are very short, actually. There's only a few pages of them. And that's when we can revisit this issue. But for right now, we do have a motion, and let's vote on that. That's the motion on the table. right now.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Yes,
on-
please.
On the motion. First, I appreciate Commissioner Wolf making the motion. Second, while I understand and I'm sympathetic to the positive heart behind Commissioner Evald's feelings on this, what I'm concerned about is that what she's suggesting is that we take a step that isn't followed by the council itself, that hasn't been followed by this commission, as far as I can tell, for a very long time. This amendment to our bylaws, if we adopt it, has to go before the council to be approved before the commission can adopt it. I would hate for us to be sending this to the council and then have them get wrapped around the axle over this question when they themselves don't adhere to this procedure. If they want to take the lead on this question, I have no objection to having it then come back to us again and revisiting the issue for ourselves. But as long as the council observes this 5 and 3 distinction, I think we ought to stick with that for now and see what the council says. If the council itself is amenable to changing its own processes, I'm amenable to changing ours.
Excuse me, may I speak to that, please?
Yes, please.
I'm speaking as a council person here, serving ex officio on this commission. I would actually encourage you not to look to the council as an example or to model yourselves after them. And let me explain why.
Yeah.
The council our expectation of this commission is that you are going to take the time to get into the weeds on subject matter when it is necessary. And if that means that you need to grant your public, people who are attending, more time to develop their thoughts, express their thoughts, the time to do it is in this commission, in front of this commission, before it comes to council. So, that's my suggestion.
Mr. Chairman, may I briefly respond to Commissioner Ritzert? What I would say is the last sentence of this
Right.
provision gives the
Yes.
chair the discretion to do that if the comments being made are productive.
It also, though, I'm sorry, it just, there is a level of subjectivity with that.
There is, understood.
And so I think it opens us, doesn't put us in a good position to make decisions like that.
Can I just say that on the comments that I made earlier, we are all about inclusivity and about having the members of the commission and the public be able to express themselves to achieve the end that Councilman Ritzert just alluded to. And I completely agree. We can extend, if someone really has compelling comments that we can simply waive this rule and we'll do so when the situation calls for it.
Chairman,
So-
I would just have one final comment. If we are all about inclusivity, then let the change start here. Let it start with us. It's not us following practice, sometimes it's making policy in micro changes, starting here at the Planning Commission, is what can drive the rest of the city.
So we have a motion on the table, and I think we should just go ahead and vote on it. If it doesn't pass, then we'll be back at square one and we can revisit
Well,
this.
if there's an amendment, let's take up an amendment, and there's none, okay.
Great.
Would
So-
someone read the motion again, please? Does anyone?
Yes. So just to be clear, this is just the motion as written right now. And I will
Okay.
read that, or would, yeah, here we go.
I think we'd
amend
be,
Article
I
7.
assume
No,
we're- I assume we're
the motion
striking,
is to-
we're striking the parenthetical words
Yeah.
more.
Right.
Yes, that's right, that's
The
right.
motion is to recommend approval of the draft language as proposed.
As proposed. All in favor?
As proposed.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
Okay, so
7-2,
7-2,
the motion
the
passed.
amendment passes. Oh, and one abstention,
So 6,
Six.
that's 6, yeah, yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Great, thank you, and I think this is all very helpful. And again, we are going to have the ability to revisit this, and will. Let's look through all the bylaws and figure out the best way to proceed. Okay,
Thank you, everyone.
great. All right, we're on C2 now, and that is discussion and review of planning commission bylaws. Okay, that's just what I was talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
So could I just ask our solicitor to just comment briefly on the requirement that we revisit the bylaws periodically?
Thanks, Chair. So annually, there's a requirement that the bylaws are revisited. At any given meeting with proper notice, the bylaws can be examined. So it's not a requirement that you have to wait a year to look at the bylaws. You could look at the bylaws next month, again, and each month after that, if you really wanted to. But I think the important thing is that these are recommendations to amend the bylaws. They go to council, and council has the final say.
Yes.
So council will review, for example, the last proposal we just discussed, and we'll maybe hear next month.
Great, thank you. Any other discussion on that before we move on?
I just had, Mr. Chair, I just had one comment.
Please.
We start a half
Commissioner
hour late
Thompson.
every day, every meeting, but it's supposed to start at 6, not 6 now.
Oh, is
Bylaws
that's what
state
it says
starts at
there?
6, so.
Okay. Well, you see, that's a kind of a thing that we need to, that's right. Let's catch it and let's make these
Mr. Chairman?
up to date.
It also says in the same paragraph that we meet at Lewes Council Chambers, and we don't. So I think we need to correct that as well.
Thank you. These are the kind of things, yeah, these are the kind of little housekeeping nitpick things that are important. that we need to
Oh,
get
there's another one.
Yes, Councilman Richard.
In the description of the duties of the chair, it does not include any input. Chair has no input on the creation of the agenda.
Oh, that's
And I would
right.
suggest if we generally follow Robert's rules, I think that you should, a chair should have some influence in the creation of an agenda. Alex, you want to
Yes.
comment on that?
Yeah, I think that's one area where there could be some consistency across the city. Currently at the city council level, if 2 council persons request an item to be placed on the agenda, it gets placed on the agenda. So there could be a clear process at the LPC for how things get on the agenda. That could be some room for improvement.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I-
Commissioner Rowe.
on that subject, when I first wrote up the bylaw amendment that we just discussed, the bylaws seemed to suggest that I was supposed to send it to the city manager. And that seemed to take people in the city manager's office by surprise. Nobody there knew what I was talking about. So there's another.
There's another,
suggestion.
there's another. All right, these need some cleaning. These needs a scrub, and this may need a full-blown bath. So, these are great. Let's make sure, and I'm sure our city planner is keeping very good notes on this, and there'll be others, and everyone will have the opportunity to suggest amendments to the bylaw. And sorry, and could we ask the city planner for comments or?
No, it's just if you have any, if you could send them to me, and then Alex and I can update and make those changes, and then we can get them out to you in time because bylaws actually have to be sent out 10 days prior to a meeting instead of 7 days prior to a meeting. And maybe that's something we change.
Exactly.
So it's consistent with everything else, so then we can get that to you guys for the next meeting for
So
consideration.
you'd rather have our comments to Janelle in writing than right now?
Oh, I'll take some now.
Okay.
I'm making.
I would like to talk about letter E. At our last meeting, that says that matters referred to the planning commission by city council or any committee shall, when possible, be placed on the agenda for consideration and action at the first regularly scheduled meeting of the planning commission following such referral. At our last meeting, I suggested that we would have another meeting when that happens, because what happens is our agenda is already packed.
Yep.
We get a referral back from city council, mayor and city council, and then that takes priority, and we keep getting unfinished business. Like this agenda had 3 items that were unfinished business because we had to take up something last time.
Right.
So that's my suggestion.
Well said.
Yeah, I
Well
would
said.
definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Us just to hold a special meeting.
Yes. That,
And if we're getting together for a special meeting, like, why not add a few other, maybe take care of unfinished business from a previous meeting so that we can start fresh each time?
so we could certainly go over an agenda for that meeting and determine what's the best use of the
And,
time.
and I have one more. And
Yes.
that is letter G, and that is talking about that we would adjourn after 2 hours of the commencement of the meeting. I have a problem with that. What happens is when we decide we're going to adjourn in 2 hours, then sometimes they'd say, okay, let's extend it 20 minutes, and then you lose your train of thought, or I do. Where were we? We're extending it 20 minutes. And the last time we extended everything 20 minutes, the 3 unfinished business items are on here, and because of the time that was associated, that was estimated, they're all 20 minutes. So I would suggest that we have a meeting that would be 2 hours, or 3 hours, 3 hours rather than 2. So we can get more done and not keep, and for example, comprehensive plan has been pushed forward, the discussion of what we're going to do, at least 3 times, because we couldn't go past the 2 hours plus 20 minutes plus 20 minutes.
Right.
So I would like to see, especially because of the comprehensive plan, that we consider having a meeting that would last 3 hours.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddy. I appreciate that comment. There is the way that, Murphy's Law, well, this is Rich Innes's law, and it is this. Meetings expand to fill available time. If we have a meeting for 3 hours, we will use 3 hours. If we have a meeting for 2 hours and we are diligent and disciplined, we can get our work done within that 2 hours. We need to be family friendly. There may be some people here that is no problem. There are others that are going home to families that need to get there. There is also the matter of the public. We have the public that comes to these meetings, and they need to be respected in the sense that we are going to get our work done, and we're going to allow them time to voice their opinion during that reasonable time frame. So we're not going home at 9:30, 10 o'clock, or later, which we have done before. We have gone past the 2 hours frequently, and probably will continue to. But I
Yes.
think that we need to have that discipline, and we can vote on it. We can vote on this.
Yes. One thing which I feel is important is that we need to go to the bottom of the issues that are submitted to us. In the past, too frequently, we have sent ultimately to the city council files that were not complete because we didn't go to the bottom of the issues, and sometimes because of problems of time, because we were trying to stick to the 2 hours, or the 2 hours extended, which sometimes were extended to 3 hours. It's unfortunate that sometimes some of the projects that we have to review, I could take Donovan Smith as an example, for instance, are very complicated and require a lot of time. But we cannot afford to say, we have to finish this up because now, you know, the clock is ticking, and so we're putting sort of a guillotine at the end of the time. So let's keep some flexibility. Let's give ourselves the opportunity to go to the bottom of the issues so that the product that we deliver to the city council is ready and finished and ready for prime times. We had some comments just 2 days ago for those who watched the city council, where some of the members of the city council expressed dissatisfaction that we had not hashed out some of the issues completely on some of the recent projects. So I think we should make an effort to maybe take the time necessary, and sometimes it may need to convey, we may need to convey meetings specifically dedicated to a specifically complicated issue, and just not spend 30 minutes or 40 minutes discussing procedures or other things like this. Like, for instance, the discussions that we've had for the past 40 minutes, I feel we could have had this almost like in chambers, outside of the regular meetings and without bothering the public with all this. So maybe you have some ideas on this yourself, you know.
And Chairman, I would also like to say that I am, I'm in support of 3 hours. We have spent time at the last 3 meetings, I believe, talking about this very issue.
We're losing people.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, maybe we've spoken too much about it. The point is that we don't need to talk about it. We need to take the time to do a good job. And I think that it is up to the chair that it doesn't necessarily have to, if you have a 3-hour meeting, it doesn't necessarily have to take 3 hours. Sometimes, you know, that we have short, H Park is a great example. We don't have a time slot, and sometimes we have a short meeting and it's a miracle. But we just take it. We're happy. Other times we're there very late, and we have a job we're tasked with, and I think we have to do it and stop interrupting the flow mentally. And it's awkward. We're at this time. We now need to call it. It feels like a sports game.
So let's look at the when we revisit the whole question of our the rules that govern us, you know, and we can look at the bylaws, which we've already amended and voted on. This was, I believe, under when Chair Stacy was the chair of this commission, and we voted to have 2 hours and then be able to extend it. That is what the rule is right now. When we revisit the bylaws, we can come back to this issue and see what commissioners want to do. Right now, we have 2 hours, and then we can extend it. Personally, I don't feel that is that much of a disruption. I think it actually is a bit of discipline to remind us that we are over our allotted time, and we need to get down to it. If we do 3 hours, it's going to result in more, in my view. It's going to go over that, because that is what we have allocated. But everyone can have a different opinion on this. This is a housekeeping thing. I'd rather not spend too much more time on this. Councilman Ritzer, did you have one more comment before you?
The only thing I was going to say is that, with all due respect to the fact that we have public in the room, and they are obviously showing interest in your discussion in the subject matter on the agenda, the fact of the matter is that this monthly Planning Commission meeting is your only opportunity to do your business.
Yeah.
And that includes not only project review, anything that falls in your realm, you have to do during this time. And it includes the kind of discussion you've had so far about your bylaws. This is you doing your business in public. I mean, that sounds kind of funny, doesn't it? But that is in fact what you have to do. And so I say this with a great deal of respect for the fact that public has shown up. I attend many meetings as ex officio or member of council, and no one from the public shows up. The fact that you have this number of people in your room, I don't know how many people are online also following this discussion. The critical thing is there is public participation, representation. and they need to see how the sausage is made. And some of it's pretty, and some of it is rather boring, but this is your only opportunity to do it.
Great, thank you.
I would also like to add very quickly.
Can I just
Oh, I'm
acknowledge our
I would like to add that
BPW liaison?
for the BPW, we don't put a time limit on our meetings. We never have, to my knowledge. And they just go as long as we can stay awake sometimes.
I would just say to that, and this is a well-known fact, productivity really goes down after you are tired. And decisions are made that sometimes you're not at your best, but let's just leave it. Let's just leave this discussion for a later discussion when we revisit the bylaws.
I have one easy suggestion.
Please.
That I believe the chair does have the authority to move around agenda items. So perhaps you can put the items at the beginning, you can announce how we're going to move through the agenda. You can say that we're going to deal with the new business first. And then leave housekeeping till the end so that the people who are here in attendance can be engaged in what interests them and for the reason that they're here. The other thing is we can consider that the bylaws say 6 o'clock. If that would still get us out by 9. So I think those are two things that we could consider. But prioritizing really would be maybe helpful.
Yes, thank you. Any further discussion on the 5 minutes that we allocated for bylaws?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please.
at the risk of prolonging this discussion, I would have loved for my proposed bylaw amendment to have passed 6 to 2 to 1, but the total's 9, and there's only 8 of us in the room. So I think the vote was really 5 to 2 to 1.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, I found that. That's a good one.
I voted twice.
It's called voting early and often.
So, Mr. Chair, I've
Yes,
written down
please.
some items to make amendments to. If anybody else has any additional suggestions, if you can get them to me by Monday, then we'll start working on them and working with Alex to making those changes for your consideration at your next meeting.
Great, thank you, thank you. So we are now on C3, update on the scheduling of the ADU special meeting from the chair of the commission. Okay, so everyone here got a doodle poll, and I know that not everyone has responded to it yet. But this is an efficient way to schedule these special meetings. And what you do is, with a doodle poll, is you just go where you've got critical mass. This is a meeting, a special meeting, and I would just ask, and we've already passed the deadline for responding to the doodle poll, but this is something that the city council has come back to us. We have already had a discussion here in the planning commission about this issue. And they have specifically asked us to look at one issue in particular, but you could say a set of issues where things have changed, where the ordinance that was approved out of the city council there is some additional information that has come to light, which may require revisions to that. And we have been asked specifically to look at that. So we need to have a special meeting, and I put down a couple of dates, but I am not critical to this. Frankly, Commissioner Ewald is the person who is probably most conversant on this, on the commission, but we can make a judgment call once we get everyone's input on
Can
the
I
dates.
just ask a question, if I may?
Please.
Jim? Does August 12th at 6:30 work for everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
You now have a meeting.
That-
I think there was one person who couldn't, but I think
Yeah.
every opportunity I put out there did not work for one person.
That had the most votes, as I recall.
Yeah, that worked.
Correct, it did have the most votes.
Good.
That works.
Okay.
Are we also going to include the other members who were on the subcommittee?
So again, it's, public will reach out to a number of groups, but council's asked you to look at one item, and that's what your focus is gonna be. Now, again, people are gonna bring up other items that's perfectly fine. You've been asked to look at one item, but if
Yeah.
we are good at August 12th at 6:30, we will get that scheduled.
And I would also just like to add that we're characterizing this as there was an issue with the ordinance. The issue is not with the ordinance. The issue is with people who don't wish to follow the ordinance and would like us to change it. So let's be honest
Let's
about
keep that discussion for the meeting that we have.
Okay. I just wanted to put
Great.
that into the record. I felt it was important.
Great, thank you.
May I ask a question, please, before it that doesn't require a vote, it's just consensus,
It's just
correct?
consensus.
Okay.
Right, no, that
I'm
doesn't.
gonna, here's a little wrench I'm throwing. Is there any reason why you all would not consider convening a little bit earlier than 6:30? So in other words, it's a special meeting, there are, you can do whatever you want at this, as far as scheduling. And what I'm asking is, even if you brought it forward to 6 o'clock, that's a little bit earlier?
We do, it's a good question. I
5:30.
know it works on my schedule. I know there are some of the commissioners that don't free up until
Okay.
a little bit later.
Well,
But,
that's not until classes start at UD, it's fine now, so 12th is fine, it's 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock?
Is there,
Is that good?
6 o'clock works for?
Okay,
for-
I'll make that
for me.
updated.
Okay, let me just get it in
All
here.
right,
though.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Gina.
If it isn't on your calendar, it doesn't exist. So, good. And that will be here in Rollins, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. Any further discussion on that? I think that came close to the 2 minutes. That was good. Okay.
But we're good.
No one's counting though.
New business, and this is one that we have allocated 30 minutes to. And I just want to say, because I'm still going to stick with this until we vote otherwise, we're going to try to stick to the allocated time that we have for this discussion. And so we have 30 minutes for this discussion. Everyone, there was a good report and a packet on this. And this is 2 lots, actually three parcels, 2 lots. And the city council has already had a discussion on this, but let's let it rip. And would it make sense to have and after we hear from Commissioner Matty, would it make sense to have the city planner give a brief consensus? Go ahead.
I would like to say that my property, our house, is listed on the Environmental Regulatory Records Review as having 2 tanks. When we bought the house, we contacted DENREC to try to have them removed, and DENREC didn't want to go that way, so they're oil tanks. And what we did is we had them pumped out and filled with concrete, and we have a letter from DENREC saying that it's no further action required. So I just wanted to make that acknowledgement that my house is listed, 510 Railroad Avenue, under the environmental review.
Great, thank you.
So it's listed under Bob Heffernan, but it's also my house.
It makes
More so.
one wonder a little bit about the accuracy of the rest of them, frankly.
Yeah.
Well, that's true,
Yeah.
that's true.
I'm surprised you went into, dug into that report, what was that page, 400 or something?
It was mentioned on several pages, but
Okay.
it's
That's a good
high-
clarification.
It's the higher elevation, so it's not an issue, but I just wanted to disclose that that's my property, so.
So anyway, I would like to hear from our city planner about this recommendation, the discussion, public comment, and possible recommendation.
All right.
And then also to see whether, and this is where I'm going to use the prerogative of the chair, if we have people from the public here, rather than have to wait all the way to the end, we may invite public comment. So go ahead.
So I'm going to give an overview, and the applicant is here to give a presentation to explain their application as well. And the city solicitor has recused himself from this.
Yes.
That's why he has left the room. So if you have any questions, we will figure those out. So this is a minor subdivision. It's for the property located at the corner of Gills Neck Road and where Freeman Highway, and then Freeman Highway then actually elevates and goes over Gills Neck Road. So it's for the creation of two new parcels. There's an existing parcel. This also includes a lot line adjustment. The property owner owns the property across the street, and they actually own the canal and across the canal. So they're looking to do a little lot line adjustment. So if you recall, in the past, I've talked about hooks, is that lots A and B. So we're going to talk about 3 lots. That's lots A, B, and C are the total 3 new lots. Lots A and B will be land hooked across the canal, and that is zoned open space. Again, this is a minor subdivision. Open space is not a requirement. The split zoning is okay. So again, 3 total lots. They're all actually an acre or more. The minimum lot size is 10,000 square feet. The properties are zoned R2. So they exceed the lot size. They comply with the lot frontage, lot depth. They are proposing a central driveway because, again, the bike path is on this property. It's in a permanent easement, but it is on this property. So they are reducing the impact for crossings on the bike path to one driveway for a shared driveway, and then there's an easement that will go back. Lot 3 is 1.5 acres, a little bit more, a little bit less, and they have proposed donating that to the city. If that does not happen, it is still a buildable lot, and it has the accurate lot frontage. So again, it's a minor subdivision for the creation of 2 new lots with a residual and a little bit of a lot line adjustment. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And just for housekeeping note, 5 subdivisions, I understand, up to 5 parcels is a minor subdivision.
5
And
lots,
5
not parcels.
5 lots, thank you. Anyway, do we want to move to a presentation on
Yep.
this? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mackenzie Pete. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Saul Ewing with offices in Wilmington, Delaware. I'm here on behalf of my clients Chase Brockstead and Eric Chagru, who are present this evening, both of whom are seeking a subdivision, as Ms. Cornwall just explained, of 2 parcels of land located within the city. The property owner of record is Robert J. Kennedy III. The property is specifically owned in trust, as the application reflects. And Mr. Kennedy submitted a written consent for the submission of this application, which is part of the record. In addition to Mr. Brockstead and Mr. Chagru, the project's engineer, Zachary Crouch, is also present today. He's with Davis Bone and Friedel. Mr. Crouch will present the subdivision plan in detail to you. I'm going to start just by reviewing the site project, and then we'll turn it over to Mr. Crouch. And then before we conclude, our clients did want to say a few words as well, and then we'll welcome any questions that you may have. So in terms of the site, it consists of 2 existing parcels, parcel 335-854, and also a portion of 335-8-55. The property is located off Gills Neck Road with frontage along Gills Neck. And it's also subject, as explained, to an easement where the junction and breakwater trail is located, also near the canal. The nearby properties, as you likely know, are developed residentially. They also include open space areas, vital recreational areas in the city. The applicants proposed the minor subdivision of parcel 54 into 2 residential lots you'll see on the screen, lot A and B, along with a residual area identified as lot C. It's located in the back of the plan on the bottom of the page. Additionally, parcel 55 is part of the lot line adjustment as explained with that land hook component as well. Lot A is proposed to be 1 acre in size. Lot B is slightly above 1 acre, 1.097 acres. Both lots will comply with the minimum area requirements for the R2 low density zone, which is the current zoning for the property, and also the proposed zoning for the residential components. As mentioned, both lots will also feature this open space area across Gills Neck that is consistent with other nearby residentially developed properties along Gills Neck Road that are towards the downtown city area. Lot A's open space area, as you'll see on the plans, approximately 0.2 acres, and Lot B's open space area is just under 0.3 acres. This will be achieved through a lot line adjustment, with the remainder of parcel 55 remaining as is, wetlands. Notably, the plan also includes a notation that proposed open space area cannot be subdivided further from the larger tracts. I know that's a concern of the city, or has been in the past with projects like this. Lot C is proposed at 1.545 acres, as the commission is now aware, and if you weren't already, Mr. Sugar and Mr. Brockstead are proposing donation of this parcel to the city for public open space. In connection with this donation, they would need to have an appraisal of that lot prepared for tax purposes. I just wanted to note that. The plan also includes a note limiting the development of that parcel with any dwellings and or commercial structures on the property. One other note is that lot C we would imagine, ultimately be rezoned to open space, subject to and following the approval of any minor subdivision plan and lot line adjustment. On May 22nd, this proposal was presented to Mayor and Council, as the chair had mentioned, who requested that my clients also have a Phase 1 environmental assessment prepared, and that was as a result of a comment by Ms. Curtis. This assessment was prepared by Envirotech Environmental Consulting, Inc., and a copy of that report was submitted into the record. The proposal, in our opinion, is thoughtfully aligned with the objectives, purpose, and characteristics of both the R2 and OS zones, demonstrating compatibility and consistency with the surrounding land uses. The proposal integrates the existing residentially developed properties as well as nearby state and city-owned properties that serve vital recreational functions in the city and surrounding property. The proposal is not only consistent with those zones, but also the comprehensive plan, and actively contributes to the preservation of open space, enhances recreational opportunities, subject, of course, to the city accepting the donated parcel. Is keeping in character with nearby properties, their design, and supports the development of a vibrant and diverse residential community along Gills Neck. The applicants followed the required process set forth in the code governing minor subdivisions. They had a pre-application meeting with Ms. Cornwall on May 19th. The application was later filed by the engineering firm, and all required materials were submitted. The city provided its review letter on the project on June 27th. On July 3rd, the applicant's engineer submitted a response responding to that letter point by point, and also addressing the comments in an updated plan. You may have noticed, I just wanted to point out, an amended plan that had been included in the record. It has since been withdrawn. That plan was based on an earlier interpretation of Lot B, considered as a corner lot, subject to more restrictive setbacks that would have ultimately affected its developability and resulted in a reduction of Lot C's lot area. But upon further review, it has been determined that Lot B is not a corner lot because Freeman Highway actually elevates above the canal. It doesn't intersect with Gills Neck, so it's not actually a corner lot. Ultimately, the original plan that was presented to Mayor and Council is the plan on the screen, what's being presented to you today. And before turning the presentation over to Mr. Crouch, I just also wanted to confirm that notice of this meeting was provided in accordance with code requirements, and proof of mailing was submitted to Ms. Cornwell in advance of today's meeting. So I'll turn the presentation over to Mr. Crouch, and then Mr. Shagru and Mr. Brockstead will say a few words, and we can answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Wow, that pretty much covered it all. For the record, I'm Zach Crouch with Davis Boner Fidel, and I just want to cover a couple things in reference to the plan that's presented to tonight. Based on that meeting that we had with Mayor and Council, one of the requests was to extend an easement, an access easement to Parcel C, just for emergency access as well as to have some type of access to the property. So we have done that which represented on the plan. We have communicated with BPW in your file, and on the record there's a willingness and able letter for water, sewer, and electric. And we actually just had a meeting with them yesterday in reference to water and sewer, and actually gas and electric. So we did cover all those bases, and once, depending on how we move forward with this project, then we would submit a set of plans to them, and of course, that would be required before we receive final approval. The road itself, Gills Neck Road, is not a DelDOT road, so we would be coordinating with them as well on an entrance, which would be your typical single entrance to serve both parcels. And the reason why we're doing that is there again to eliminate having two separate entrances, and it also eliminates having two crossings of the multi-use path that runs along Gills Neck Road. And as when we did meet with mayor and council, I mean, the purpose of that meeting was to kind of discuss, you know, why we were doing this. And there again, the purpose of that was to see, you know, what the city would like to do in reference to us proposing to donate the land. And the two lots that are there, you know, just having 2 1-acre lots and just having a piece of property in the back as being open space, and especially with the location of it next to Georgetown Rails and Trails, it just made all the sense in the world to use that as an opportunity for open space, because there's a number of things that could be done to that piece of property. So, you know, it was received pretty well with mayor and council. They would like to move forward with it. As part of that, they wanted the environmental study, which there again, we provide that as part of the record. And I think that was it. So, yeah, so we're here to answer any questions. Oh yeah, the fire marshal, that was the other thing. Mayor and council wanted to show that there was fire marshal approval on this. We did, as part of the record, we did submit to the fire marshal. They did give us approval for the site plan, which would be part of the final site plan as we move forward. But those items that were brought up at the mayor and council meeting, as well as the items that were covered in Ms. Janelle's letter, have been addressed. So I'll turn it back over unless there's any questions for me.
I had one question. I'm having a hard time understanding the plat with the access. So is anybody else with me on that? I don't understand where the access to lot C, the emergency access, is going to be.
There's a easement between the two parcels, and it's noted as a 20-foot access easement that runs between the two parcels back to parcel C.
It's the area with the arrows, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, this part, okay.
Yes.
Oh, I was thinking, all right, so it's going to be from Gills Neck Road?
Yes.
Okay.
And actually, Mr. Richards, also, that was one of your recommendations, if I'm not mistaken, is that correct?
Was it a good one?
Yes, it was.
Yes, I take credit for it.
Yeah, I watched that as well, and it was a concern.
And actually,
there were some concerns on
and
that.
actually, that was a recommendation by the fire marshal too, for their approval.
I had a question though. Somewhere in the report, it talks about access to Lot 3 from Freeman Highway. And, you know, it doesn't show that on the plot plans. I don't know who owns the land at the edge of Lot 3 between there and Freeman Highway. Is that DRBA?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
It's
DRBA.
all right of way. It's
It's all-
really wide right of way.
So in essence, if it is donated to the city of Lewes, or when, however y'all want to look at it, they could have access from DRB entrance to that, to the back of the parcel, if the city wanted to access it for any type of maintenance or anything, cutting the grass or stuff, or we have another emergency access if need be from Gills Neck Road.
And what's that rectangle to the right of parcel C? I didn't see.
It's a
where
building on
explained.
DRBA's property.
Yes,
Ah, no, not the one down below,
there's
that little one.
it's a little
Oh,
shed
that's
there.
a shed?
Yes.
Shed
Oh,
that-
okay, okay.
That's actually in the right of way.
Mhm.
So
Which we don't-
DRBA is using the right-of-way for their purposes, and the city could as well? I'm just confused about how we
Okay.
get access
So-
reasonably.
From a legal standpoint, it has road frontage along Freeman Highway. What the applicant is doing is providing alternative access for emergency vehicles and equipment through the entrance off Gills Neck Road all the way back. So it has frontage along Freeman Highway from a zoning perspective that meets all the requirements that it's supposed to do. And then for additional access, they can use the driveway that the applicant is proposing along from Gills Neck to go all the way back.
We're going to move to a question from Commissioner Puri, then Commissioner Thompson, but are there any other questions on that question? Very
Yes.
good question from Barbara. Okay.
Yeah, are you on the
Is it
same?
on that question?
Kind of.
Okay, let's do 1, 2, 3. Great.
Okay, so I have a question. You mentioned that the space would be dedicated to open space, and I've read somewhere in the documentation that there should be no dwelling or commercial building installed
That is correct.
on the property. So I was wondering if the applicant would be amenable, and the term commercial building is a little bit ambiguous to me, but would be amenable to some sort of use by the city for this property if it were donated, other than just being a patch of grass that would have to be mowed, basically.
I
as
think
we-
Ms. Cornwell might be able to answer that question.
Yeah,
'cause
but
what
I'm not finished with my
Okay.
question. Yeah, I was thinking that in open space, you know, there are a number of things that can be installed in open space under the code. And when you mentioned that it would be left in open space, did you mean that as in a colloquial sense, or do you mean this in the sense of the code? For instance, would it be possible for the city to install some sort of sporting equipment where people who are jogging on the trail could stop and start doing push-ups or lift-ups or whatever? Could there be a small basin where the kids could wander with some fountains in there? Or do you mean that it should basically remain as barren land? Could you clarify that?
So actually, I'm going to address that one if I can. That determination is going to be up to the city with input from the Parks and Recreation Commission, because if they so choose, it's really a decision of if the city accepts this donation, how it is used will be determined by the mayor and city council. Right now, this is an application to create a lot that complies with the lot frontage, lot size, lot depth of the R2 zoning district. While the hope is that the city will accept it as open space, the applicant has stated they don't want it to have commercial structures, but in conversations, they are open to gazebos and benches and other open space types uses as it is along the trail. What they don't want is a house to be built there, and they do not wish commercial structures to be built there. Now, if the city needs, a gazebo or something else, that is not a commercial structure. And the thought has also been that if the city does accept this land, that the city then go through a rezoning process to rezone this from residential to open space. But that is a decision that will be made once and if the city accepts this land. For tonight's purposes, the discussion is, does this lot meet the frontage, lot size, lot depth, and lot size requirements of a subdivision for the R2 zoning classification? I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you for this clarification. I realize that we're waiting a little bit outside the realm of what we're being asked to pronounce ourselves upon, but I think everybody wants to understand what we're really dealing with. That was the sense of my question. I will have another question later, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. My question was really as to the access to the property in the case the city does not accept the donation. I think I read it could be utilized as another lot. Would that use the same easement? And Janelle, does that meet the requirements if that easement is used as a continual driveway, or does a driveway just take off from where the shared access is back to the lot?
So if the city does not accept it, there's an easement that would go all the way, that yes, a driveway could go all the way, so it'd be one driveway for 3 different properties. That is something that the property owner could allow through this decision.
Okay. And the subdivision meets that?
Absolutely, yes. Because you're talking about a driveway.
Yeah.
The code is looking at street frontage
Right.
and lot depth, lot size, all of those items. Where the driveway goes, again, they've identified, instead of 2 access points through that go across the trail and the multimodal path, to combine that into one that would allow access for both lots A, B, and C if necessary.
Commissioner Roth.
Thank you. First, Commissioner Thompson asked the first question that I had, so thank you for that. When you said the property owner could allow that driveway to be used to access Lot C, I take that to mean the property owner doesn't have to allow that driveway to be used.
Well, again, the property, Lot C has a frontage along Freeman Highway. If they could get a driveway off of Freeman Highway, they do not need to use the easement. And that is something that the property owners would work with that individual agency to get those access points.
Okay, so this leads to another set of questions that I have, which is, and this is all premised on the possibility, which I'm not going to opine on as to whether the city does or doesn't accept the donation that's been generously proffered. But I'm a little confused about this street frontage issue on Freeman Highway. First, because it's been a while since I drove past there, but in that vicinity, doesn't Freeman Highway begin to rise up above the land there?
Yeah, it does, closer towards you get to Lot B, which is why Lot B is not considered a corner lot, because the roads don't intersect. Freeman Highway is actually going over, but right now, for a portion of Lot C, the road is at grade.
For a portion of
For a
Lot
good
C.
portion of that, because multiple agencies and people have used an existing access point off there to get through Gills Neck Road.
Okay,
So there
that's
is an access point there that it does exist for access to that lot.
But if the owner, either for their own reasons or because DRBA chose not to grant an easement, Lot C would essentially be landlocked.
No, it is not landlocked. It has frontage along DRBA. It is where the driveway access goes, which
Well,
is it's a different thing, because you can have, because Lot A and B could put their driveways, if they wanted, at the opposite ends of their parcels. Or you have a house, if you didn't have your driveway, you could put it kind of where you want it to put it. This meets frontage requirement. It's compliant with code. It's where the driveway goes that is up to DRBA but right now there is an easement that will allow for a driveway to go through lots A and B to get to Lot C if needed. If
But-
DRBA does not grant a curb cut to Lot C.
But if the owner or the ultimate owners of lots A and B, and the ultimate homeowners of lots A and B, I'm not sure how ultimately the chronology would work out. If they didn't want that driveway used as a regular passageway, driveway,
They don't get that.
It's called a permanent easement, and it's a recorded permanent easement for those 3 lots.
okay, so it's not just for emergency use?
No, if So if we
All right.
go to worst-case scenario and the city does not accept the land, then the easement will be reclassified that it will provide driveway access to lots A, B, and
Yes.
C.
And you're,
If the city does accept it, then it would be for the use of the
All right.
city for emergency access
Okay.
or,
It's an
or
ingress, egress
maintenance
easement.
needs.
Okay, all right. It was just the reference before just to
Correct.
emergency use and whatnot, just is what had me a little thrown there and
Understood.
understood. Okay,
Could-
thank you
could
for
I-
the, thank you for the clarification.
Could I just ask, since I understand that Councilman Richard may have been at the genesis of this, do you have any other comments on this particular point?
On this particular thing about the driveway?
Right.
Just remember, you will
Are
be
we
voting on this separately.
Yes, I understand, thank you
Just
very
always
much.
That's a
making
good
sure.
point.
Yeah, I am very
They don't want
familiar with the
bias here.
principles of ingress, egress easements, and what has been provided here is the proposed
Great.
easement from Gills Neck Road that will extend all the way back to Lot C. And once that easement is recorded, it can't be, it's not revocable, right? And so it becomes something that in fact will run with the
Great.
the land.
Land.
That is helpful.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just to be clear, I just want to reiterate something that the city planner said, and that is that while we can opine about whether or not this land, and I just want to say, and if I don't have an opportunity to say it later, this is an extraordinarily kind, generous, good, community-based offer, and we are very appreciative and want to recognize that this is great. Our charge tonight is not to really look at that issue, as great as it is. We could offer we could say, we think this is something that the city ought to just take full advantage of for all kinds of very good reasons. But that is not what we are charged with doing tonight. We are charged with looking at whether or not this meets the necessary elements of the code, and toward that end, I would like to move us I would like to make a recommendation on this tonight, not put another item on our very long list. This is a minor subdivision. It is a great and important one. I know there is one other proposal that we're going to have, and I want to hear about that one. I personally think it's a good one, but let's move forward on this. And any other comment here?
I
Any
have
other?
a question.
Oh yes, and I'm sorry, and we do have two more speakers who want to.
I have a
and
question.
Commissioner Madden.
I read that there is an area where there is a groundwater recharge area. Where is that on your site plan? Is it across the canal?
Excellent recharge area.
Excellent,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, the excellent recharge. It's on the southern portion of the property. I don't have the map here, but it's,
Okay, so I have the map here, so.
So it's on the Freeman Highway side. Where the catch basin is?
yeah, so we're on this side.
Right,
That's
so
on that side.
didn't I read is it over here across the canal then?
Yeah, the excellent recharge area is actually on, like the Old Town
Yeah.
subdivision area. It is not on this side of Freeman Highway. It is across Freeman
I
Highway.
read that
Okay.
part of the property was,
Oh, that's important. Okay, so,
okay, all right.
great. I'm sorry, we have one more?
A quick question. I know we're not here to make decisions other than whether or not the appropriateness of the subdivision. I understand those parameters. I do have a question, though. I assume the applicant at some point will be proposing single-family homes on these lots?
Yes, because that is what is allowed in the R2 zoning district.
Okay. Any idea what size? I mean,
There is no limitation on size, as there is no limitation on size anywhere in the city, as long as it complies with with setbacks and lot coverage and building height.
All right. And the access across the bike path, you're gonna have to cross the bike path in order to access the easement, is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah, the bike path is actually on this property.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
So what type of issues should we be aware of with the idea that the bike path is on the property and that there's a permanent easement across it? Is there some type of, I don't know, I'm not sure, is this unusual for the city to allow this kind of private access in a way? I mean, it's a driveway.
So.
It's a private access across the bike path, as opposed to, public roads, bike path goes across Savannah, whatever it may be.
So you'll notice like there's portions of the path where at driveways or entrances to commercial do cut into the bike path and they cross over that. The property owner was nice enough to allow the multimodal path to be placed in a permanent easement on their property. And what they're doing again is recognizing that while they could have two separate locations for driveways, they are combining it into one, reducing the impact, but it is allowed to cross, and the city has to allow access to their properties for a driveway.
I had one, Chairman.
We have Commissioner Evil, please.
Yes, we're looking at it right now as two lots. You did mention the possibility if the city does not take it, it becomes three. Where do we draw the line between a driveway and a street? And I know that also a driveway, we have no responsibility on maintenance, correct? So is that really the line?
So there's a number of items that go into because one, if it's a road, there is a right of way, and the road has to meet certain standards, and there's sidewalks, but there is no limit as to the length of a driveway for any property owner.
But there is a limit for
maximum
roads, right? Or for cul-de-sacs.
For cul-de-sacs, it's over 300 feet.
Right.
But again, not for a driveway, for an individual driveway or a shared driveway, there's a maximum width of 20 feet. And that's the only requirement regarding a driveway.
So that is one thing that if we were looking at this as a road, it would have to be a cul-de-sac for a turnaround if there was access to three homes or to three lots. And we'd be looking at, there would have to be a waiver granted, obviously, because it's much deeper than 300 feet, correct?
So again, you are looking at a minor subdivision that does not require a road. And the fire marshal has said
That is okay.
that it's the length of this easement is okay, and they actually asked for the easement as well
Okay.
for access to Lot C if needed.
And then just do we have any concerns about visibility, entering or exiting the shared driveway at that location?
On Gilsneck Road.
Yes. Or are we okay with that?
No,
It's lower traffic than what we usually see personally, so.
yeah, we shouldn't have any concerns there because again, like Janelle said, it's one access instead of having two or three accesses.
Yes.
And again,
Which is,
the city is required to allow the accesses to those lots.
and my question about also regarding the multi-use path, was that granted under the lands of Kennedy, and is it permanent move with, or is that going to become, how does this work?
So again, it's called a permanent easement, so it stays with the land, just like this
So
easement.
it's already
is-
operating as such?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, and also, if you think when you have to put in the driveway's gonna dip a little bit, so you're gonna have to, there's gonna be a little bit of a grade change when you're biking or walking or rollerblading or whatever you're doing on the path, because you're now crossing that, so it should slow people down a little bit.
okay. And
that helps.
who does the liability for that easement? Who does it fall upon? The homeowner or the property owner, or, who does it?
That's not really a relevant question to the minor
Is-
for
for
I
us?
understand.
Is it for the city of Lewes or no?
I don't know who has the responsibility and liability of the multimodal path. I honestly don't have a response for that one.
Okay. And I just want to close this off by saying it's very hard because we are looking at it as a simple subdivision, and we could certainly decide this tonight. But I don't know how we can possibly consider this without also considering the parcel that's going to be a gift to the city, to make a recommendation for us, I think we have to have a big picture. It would not be fair or right for the citizens of Lewis. So that's all. I think I don't know how we can view this in isolation.
I respectfully disagree. This is, I mean, that is going to be a decision that the city council is going to have to make about whether or not they accept the very kind and great offer for our community, frankly, that has been proffered. Right now, though, that technically is not it doesn't exist yet, and I mean we can speculate, and we can offer. I don't see any reason why we can't say, and we also suggest that the city council take advantage of this, look into it. But we can say that. I think we can say that as the recommendations that come through. But our job right now is just to look at whether or not this conforms and to ask the very good questions that we've been asking tonight. Commissioner Thompson.
My only comment is aren't we going to make a motion based on what we've been presented, which is Lot C is being donated, whether that happens?
No.
No?
No, you are looking at it, whether or not it's donated or not, does Lot C meet the lot size, lot width, lot depth, street frontage requirements of the R2 zoning district? And that is the requirement for the minor subdivision.
This is why I ask about the driveway versus the street, because does it meet the requirements for access?
It does. It has well over 75 feet. It has
And could you tell me the length of?
187 feet of frontage along Freeman Highway.
Okay.
Which is,
That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
The access.
the access, again, I don't
Would
know
be from
exactly
Gill's Neck,
where the road starts to go up, but it is closer towards Lot B than it is towards Lot C.
You're talking about access from Freeman Highway?
Yeah, is that not what you asked?
No. Oh, I'm sorry, Gill's Neck Road.
Gill's Neck,
I'm sorry, that was my error.
yeah, Lot C doesn't need access off of Gill's Neck Road. Lot C needs access from the code, from a zoning perspective, off of Freeman Highway, which is a street it has street frontage on.
Which Del Dot would be in charge of, correct?
DRBA is in charge of. And again, if DRBA does not grant a driveway entrance, a curb cut, there is alternative access, but it still meets the street frontage requirement. It's whether or not
Yes, it
that
doesn't matter where they come in from.
where
I
the
get that.
yes.
Yeah. So it's, I guess I'm asking one question, you're answering another.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask my question again.
Okay.
My question is, considering that the access will be from Gill's Neck Road, I am assuming that because, yeah, I'm just going to assume that, that's all. What is the length of the driveway, the shared driveway from Gill's Neck Road back to parcel C?
It would be 300 feet.
Okay, so even if
If
it was
it goes-
considered a road, it would be, if it had to become a road for access for other reasons, it's within the parameters.
Correct, but it would not be able to become a road for other reasons unless it went through the major subdivision process.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, we have, I know for a fact that we have two proposed conditions that I would like to get to. But let me ask if there are other, and please, go ahead, Mr. Crouch.
Yes.
Before you get to your other questions, I'd just like to ask my clients to come up. They'd like to say a few
Yes.
words if they could.
Please, thank you, and thank you for being here, and thank you for being patient.
Good evening, everyone. Just want to let you, I'm Eric Chagru, I'm one of the applicants, my partner Chase Brockstead.
You know, Chase Brockstead, just want to say thank you.
Speak into the mic, because what I've discovered is you can't otherwise be heard if people are listening. And,
My name's Eric Chagru, I'm one of the applicants, my partner Chase Brockstead.
Chase Brockstead, we just wanted to say thank you all very much for your time and consideration for this. I understand what goes into reading all of the materials and asking the questions. As you guys can glean, I mean, what we're hoping to do ultimately here is to develop the two front parcels into two single residential family homes and to donate the rear parcel to the city. It obviously is adjacent to the bike trail, and we're hoping that the city ultimately can use it for something, you know, that would be in support of that, you know, whether it's, you know, sort of the fitness area or gazebos or, you know, fountains or whatever it may be or something like that.
Yeah.
We understand that that's not really what's part of your consideration tonight, but that is our intent, and we appreciate the time and effort that's going in to consider this. Thank you.
Thank you. We're bowled over, I think. Please, Barbara.
I would like to direct everyone's attention to the environmental site assessment. It is fascinating. If you're interested in the history of Lewes at all, look at the aerials, look at the Sanborn maps, you know, look at also the water well map, the topo maps. They tell you so much about the history, and they're invaluable for later use.
Yes.
And so I thank you very much for that. I loved reading it.
Thank you. I wish every applicant were like this. I would like to, I know we have a suggestion for a couple of conditions. I'm sorry. I'm
Would you
missing
like to
something.
hear from the public regarding this application?
Yes, why don't we
Before
do
we
that
move into
now,
any
before we
motions
go
and discussion?
into- And further, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, any members of the public, either here or online, please step up to the mic and give your name and address.
I'm Steve Cohen. I live at
Wait, is it 3 or 6?
It's,
Take such
Your
time
name
as you
again,
may
please.
consume. Please
Steve
go.
Cohen, 121 Schley. So my property abuts this.
okay, thank you.
They've answered all the questions I had, and I just think we have 4 neighbors here, so I guess I'm an organization. We're all in support of this. We think it's a great idea. We think it would be a missed opportunity for the city if they didn't take that property. But even if it was a third single-family home, it's better than what has been proposed in the past, so.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, please.
My name is Mike Molnar, M-O-L-N-A-R, 121 Schley Avenue. It's the exact same address as Steve Cohen, or dwelling. I understand, and I think it's absolutely wonderful, but my question is, that access road from Gill's Neck, will it technically be a private driveway?
Yes.
Yes. So if it's a private driveway, are there trash cans going up to Gill's Neck, or BPW trash trucks are coming down the driveway?
So, the city is going to pick up trash at Gill's Neck Road. That is the intent. Like all other residents, they would bring their trash containers, recycling containers, yard waste to the road for the city or the private company who does yard waste to be collected.
And if the city of Lewes does not accept Lot C or that back parcel closest to Bay and River, and it gets developed into either broken down, maybe down the road, you know, with the help of laws, into 2 parts, or meaning 2 other residential buildings, are they also taking their trash up to Gill's Neck, or are they going to have access from Freeman Highway where there is a higher elevation?
So that would be a determination made by the maintenance department if that ever happened as to where the closest pickup and location for the vehicles to do the trash service could be.
Well, I'm absolutely really delighted about everything that's happening and the way it's happening, and I certainly hope that the city does take that third parcel or that generous gift, no matter how you see it, if it's altruistic or a for-profit situation, it's still a win-win for the public. But I would like to just say for this record, anything that is a water feature is really beautiful until it's no longer working, and water features come at a huge expense. So when it comes to fountains and those kind of things, it also comes with a greater liability statistically. And that's it. And I think that what the city can do is revisit the past when the creation of Welcome Alley and the 3 driveway to Kings Highway, which is off of DeVries Circle. You may want to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Anybody want to yield back there? Great. Anybody online? Blue? Great. Let's move to what I know are a suggestion for a couple of conditions that we may want to consider for making a recommendation to mayor and city council on this.
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner.
So something important happened 2 days ago during the council meeting for another subdivision, which was a major subdivision. Here we're dealing with a minor subdivision, but the circumstances, while not similar, are relatively analogous. And I feel that we owe it to the city council to discuss two of the main questions that arose during the council meeting and which proved quite complicated for the council to resolve because they had not been hashed out here at the Planning Commission before. One of the questions that had been raised was whether or not the properties, the houses that were going to be built on lots that were fronting the byway, and in this case it was Pilot Town Road because we were talking about the Roosevelt Landing property, which is the former dairy, whether the houses that were going to be on the lots fronting Pilot Town Road, and therefore the byway, should be facing the canal, or whether they could be actually facing Dairy Lane, which is the equivalent of the easement that you have here between your lots A and B. And ultimately, the question was easily resolved because the property owner accepted voluntarily the condition, which has nonetheless been put on the list of conditions for approval, the conditions that the houses that will be built on the front lots, equivalent here to lots A and B, the houses should be facing the byway, and they should not be turned in such a way that the side of the properties would be visible from the road. So the first conditions that I would like to propose is that in this instance also we require that the houses that will be built on the lots should face Pilot Town Road, not turn their back to Pilot Town Road or turn their side. Gill's Neck. Sorry, in my mind, Pilot Town Road and Gill's Neck is the same thing. So yes, Gill's Neck. Thank you. So that's the first thing. And you will have an opportunity to say whether you accept this condition or whether you reject this condition. This is up to you, but that assumes that my colleagues vote on this and decide that we should make this a condition, which is the point that remains to be decided. The second aspect, maybe I should give them a few seconds because they're talking.
Yeah, is there comment on that recommendation that the homes would be facing the canal? Is there a comment on that?
There's no motion.
I just have can I ask a question?
Sure.
I do too.
Is that something to be determined at this point?
We will not be able to revisit
No,
this
isn't it
later
part
on.
of when they go to develop it that'll come about? I'm asking. I don't know.
No.
So typically the houses should front Gill's Neck Road at this point because that's where they're facing. But if a property owner for some odd reason wanted to turn our house sideways and not have it face Gill's Neck Road, they have that right to do that because it's their property. But most people don't do that. They have the front of the house face the road, which is what you would see for lots A and B.
But I guess my question is, we're not looking at a plan that has buildings on it yet. That's to come, and isn't that determined at that point?
No, that will never come back to us again, right? The next step will be a building permit that will be applied for with the city's building official. Is that correct, Janelle?
Yes, just like everybody else gets to submit for a house permit on their lot, they submit for what they would like to build on their lot to the city building department.
So this is the last time that we're looking at this project. Today is the last
So
day.
the building inspector, the building department does not dictate the facing of the house?
No.
Okay.
Unless there is a condition, in which case he will.
So we're going to
Okay.
go to Mackenzie and then Commissioner Wolf, please.
Thank you. Just to put the point to bed, there's no issue with that objection from the applicant. Thanks.
Okay, so you will have an opportunity to accept it voluntarily. That's what the applicant in the dairy did. They specifically mentioned later on, after the before the condition was set, actually, that they were going to accept it. The second thing that happened 2 days ago, it's
no
one
motion.
it's one condition wrapped
Okay,
in
he
with
was
two
gonna yield
aspects.
to me on that condition. and
Okay.
it's moved. So I was not interrupting.
Sorry.
Trying to play the rules.
Sorry. Okay. So I'm continuing. The second thing that happened at the city council was that for the first time, the city council decided to refer to the historic and maritime character of the community, and they adopted wording which we cannot exactly duplicate here, because in the case of the dairy there is an HOA, and if I understand correctly, you are not planning to have an HOA here. Is that correct?
That would be correct. There's
Yeah,
no need
there
for
is
a
no
homeowners
HOA and need
association.
for an HOA. So we are in slightly different circumstances, but there again, we can transpose what has been decided at the city council regarding properties that face the byway, and that was to make a reference to the fact, and I'm simply going to read the condition, and Janelle, I think I've tried to take exactly the wording that you used 2 days ago, slightly modified, but essentially it. So the condition number 1 would read like this: consistent with laws in effect in Lewes, and I'm referring implicitly here, and that's a parenthesis to the comp plan, but consistent with laws in effect in Lewes, any house built on the Gills Neck Road byway shall face the Lewes to Rehoboth Canal, and shall, that's the new part, shall consider the marine and historic character of the community, using Chapter 170-26 of the City Code as a reference for architectural standards. Now, what comments here? 170-26 is not applicable to small subdivision. Minor subdivision, sorry. It's something that applies to major subdivision. But the alternative, we have two choices, basically. If we want to incorporate that desire to have the marine and historic character of the community to be reflected in the architecture of the future buildings on those properties. One of them would be to list things like the colors, the materials, etc., which the city council has indicated is just too cumbersome. And that is why, in the case of the major subdivision that we had before the city council 2 days ago, they simply made a reference to 170-26. There is nothing here which prevents us to make, again, the same reference to 170-26 to refer to the architectural standards. That doesn't mean that the condition or the properties would actually be subject to the provisions of 170-26. It's simply an indication of where you and the building official could look to get some ideas of what architectural standards mean, because otherwise the term is not very defined, it's relatively vague, there are not really listings anywhere in the code as to what it means, but it is found in 170-26. So this is it. So I'm going to read again the condition so that you can take notes, because I see that you've scrambled and struggled a little bit. So it would read as follows. Condition 1. Consistent with laws in effect in Lewes, any house built on the Gills Neck Road byway shall face the Lewes to Rehoboth Canal and shall consider the marine and historic character of the community, using Chapter 170-26 of the City Code as a reference for architectural standards. So that's the condition that I propose. And you don't have to respond now. If you want to, you're most welcome to comment and confer with your clients, but we haven't even
I have had an
adopted.
opportunity to confer with my client. My client's accepting of the first part, but not the second part. They'd asked that there not be an architectural component associated with the small application, minor application. They just don't believe that it's appropriate or necessary here.
So we're going to vote. I think what is important, and now I'm talking to my colleagues, what is important is that we come up with a recommendation to the City Council. We cannot let them struggle with this issue again. I think it will help them to know that you have either accepted or turned down the second part of the condition. And so I will maintain, that condition, and we'll take a vote. And if that second portion of it is voted down, then the City Council will know what the feeling of the Planning Commission is on this issue.
So what I've heard is 2 potential conditions.
Yes, I'd frame them as essentially as one, but
I
I'll
think
let you now split
I think
them.
it's cleaner if you do
If
2.
you split them, yes, I'm fine, and I'll let you do this.
And are there any other potential conditions that the Planning Commission would like to consider? I'm going to guess a strong recommendation from the Planning Commission to the mayor and council that they accept the donation of the 1.54 acres of land as open space.
That's something else.
That'd be a recommendation.
Yeah.
Yes, please, Commissioner.
As the H Park rep, I would like to just add and respond to Terry's condition suggestion on number 2. While the property does not sit in the historic district zoning, so it's not, it is not required to be architecturally historic. There is a real continuity to the canal front homes along Gills Neck Road, with the exception of a few modern ones that are there. And, it just, I don't know that we can condition this, but I think it's something that we could ask the applicant to consider, or we could send it to City Council and let them sort it. This is a challenge because we do think of that special relationship with the sea as our, core values state, but I see both sides of this. However, it would be very nice to at least pass the idea on to mayor and city council. And the other thing I would just like to say is that this property, the lands of Kennedy, many of us who follow open space parcels in the city have been watching this and waiting for it for years and fearing far worse outcomes than this. And you know me, that I'm usually the no development vote in general. Let's call it what it is. But we could have a lot worse than 2, I'm going to suspect and say, mansions being built on large lots. Yeah, my only thing as a condition might be more for the homeowners than for us. I was wondering about the street view from the Freeman Highway, and I was going to say, well, maybe we should condition that they put screening. However, I would imagine that anyone building a house there with their side yard to Kings Highway, to Freeman Highway, is going to want more screening than we would ever even suggest.
Or trees or whatever.
Yeah, no ugly white fences, please, though.
So let's try to develop these very quickly. Go ahead.
Yes. So, of course, we are going to let the city council make the decision. The only question is, what are we going to recommend? Are we going to make that recommendation or not? In the major subdivision of the dairy, which was also outside of the district, the historic district, the city decided that it wanted the historic character and maritime character of the city to be reflected through some sort of architectural standards. That a decision that they made. There is no reason why the city council, in my view, would not want to make the exact same decision for these properties. But it is true that the matter will be adjudicated by the city council. We have to take a vote as to whether or not we, or each individual members, consider that we should also impose that same condition for this minor subdivision or not. And the city council will have our decision on that.
Can I just, to move this along, I actually went back and I reread 170-26. And I just want to remind folks, it is broken up, interestingly, into two sections. One is that what is required, and I won't go through that. Structure shall have a mix of styles, sizes, facades, roof pitches, etc. And then when it gets to number 2, it has a section of encouraged. What is encouraged? And there's a lot here. I'm going to say architectural styles that reflect traditional architecture of Lewis's historic and marine community shall be encouraged. So by referencing section 170-26 here, we are making a suggestion, but this is a beauty in the eye of the beholder issue, in that you could say that the modern buildings that are on Gills Neck Road are reflective of a later stage in Lewis's history. You could make that case and make it stick, I believe. Having us recommend to the city council that they look at this section and also the comp plan for guidance in granting approval for these lots, I think my own view is that is good advice, and that we ought to include that in here. But it is just that. It is encouraging. This is the second part of 170-26. That's my own view. Please, City.
If I can, I just want to make it perfectly clear that this minor subdivision is not subject to
Yes.
Chapter 170, Section 26,
Yeah,
because it is
absolutely, and I think
that
I
is
made that
for
very
me.
clear.
I'm just making it very clear
Yes.
that those rules and regulations apply to major subdivisions, not to minor subdivisions.
I stipulated to that.
I
It
know.
was
I'm just making it very
It was
clear.
just to simplify instead of having to go through a list of what we would want in terms of architectural standards.
So when
So
I've
are we
heard,
at the point for conditions? Is that what we'd like, our
Yes.
motions?
I think.
Yes, so
Well,
these.
one more comment over here, and then I think we are going to move to that, Commissioner Eagle. Please, Commissioner Ross.
Mr. Chairman, can somebody actually read whatever language it is of this portion that we're being asked to vote on? This condition.
so what my understanding is, and you're going to need to take a vote to extend the meeting in 3 minutes. Is that they shall consider the historic and maritime character of the architecture of the city and use chapter 170-26 of the city code as reference for architectural standards.
Yes, that's the second one. The first one.
No, it's a separate motion.
I got the first.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So that was it. I would like to, at this point, recommend that we extend this meeting for 1/2 hour more and make a diligent, good faith attempt to wrap up some of our business and finish this one in particular within the next very few minutes, because we're already over our recommended time for this one.
Second.
Sure, thank you.
Yes.
30 more minutes.
Till 9 o'clock.
Let's
Till
vote
9
and get it
o'clock.
done, so we can get back focused.
Good.
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, one last point on my motion. I think it is important.
There is no motion at this point.
Yeah, or the future motion.
I'm just making sure there's.
Yes, on the future motion. I think it's important that we ensure consistency throughout the city when it comes to these subdivision, whether it's minor subdivision or major subdivision. I think all the properties should basically be subjected to the same standards. And so that we don't have to revisit this systematically. We are, in fact, today establishing precedent. If we vote against this motion, then it will be very difficult to adopt a similar motion for another property, which
So,
may be in similar circumstances.
One, there is no motion. Two, if you want to have further discussion, I believe there should be a motion made on the table to discuss that
I will make a
motion.
motion.
And I believe their attorney, Mackenzie Pete, has some additional comments she may want to make if the chair so allows her to do so.
Yes, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that it's my understanding that what was in front of council was a major subdivision. That is
Yes.
correct.
Correct.
Yes.
And so I'd consider that this particular condition inconsistent with what's been occurring, at least with respect to, minor subdivisions. We would just consider this to be outside the scope of what is appropriate. It's an inapplicable section of code to the plan. And we would ask, there's no issue with the front-facing component, but controlling architectural elements with a section of code that does not apply to a minor subdivision plan just seems outside the scope, purview, et cetera, of what's appropriate for the application. And I just want to put that on the record.
Yeah, I would object to the use of the term inconsistent. It's not that it is inconsistent, it is that it is an extension which is not a direct analogy. That
Sure.
I would agree with. The
So if I
everybody
can-
has to realize that if the condition is not approved, there is absolutely nothing that prevents the applicant, or for that matter, a buyer of the property, because it may not be the applicant who themselves build the house, they could sell the lots, to build something in the brutalist style, for instance, or even something like an aluminum and steel cube, or anything, okay? We have absolutely no standard.
It's true. And can I interrupt you? Would you mind, Terry?
No, go ahead.
Let's
I would like to move to
please.
oh, I thought I did, I'm sorry. I would like to move to make a motion. Can we do that?
Yes.
We're at that point.
Yes, and unless
Commissioner Kane,
Mr.
did you have anything you wanted to add?
Well, just to respond to Terry, even if we pass this motion, Terry, there's nothing binding the applicant. So it's false to say that if we don't pass this now, that the applicant will be free to do anything they want. The applicant is free to do anything they want anyway. It is a minor subdivision. So whatever we say here as far as what this thing we want it to look like is really up to the applicant to decide. That's just the way the code's written. I mean, I'm not saying that your motion doesn't have merit, but it's false to say if we don't pass this, it'll steamroll and suddenly all these cubes are gonna be popping up around the city of Lewes.
I want to believe that the motion, the condition that has been set 2 days ago by the city council is not for nothing. It's true that it will not bind the applicant. However, it will require that the applicant consider something, whereas before they don't even have to consider it. In this case, they will have to consider it. And this is what the city council decided they wanted the applicant for the Lewes Dairy to do.
Commissioner Fiore, would you like to make a motion
Yes.
that they shall consider historic and material architectural character and use chapter 170-26 of the city code as a reference for architectural standards?
Yes, I'm making that motion.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I would second that motion.
Is there discussion on that motion?
Any further, we've had a lot of discussion. Any further discussion? on
Yes.
this? Okay, yes.
Briefly, I'm going to vote for the motion, but I'm going to associate myself with Commissioner Keene and say to Commissioner Poirier that I do not view this as a precedent. I do not view this as something that necessarily needs to come up every time we have an application. I don't view this as something that necessarily has to apply throughout the city of Lewes. I think in this particular case, with two properties that face Gills Neck Road and the canal, it happens to be an appropriate place for the applicants to consider these criteria. I do not view my vote on this condition.
Acknowledged.
as being applicable throughout the city.
Okay.
And that is also, in seconding the motion, I did so because it is just, this is our last opportunity to comment as the LPC. And that every property in the city really has a special and unique character and location, but this one, more than many others, is a landmark property. And it's been a big question for many residents, what's going to happen there. So I think that I've seconded the motion simply to pass it on as an option for mayor and council. Ultimately, it will be up to them. But I respect Commissioner Poiret's choice to just put it on the table. And that's why I supported it.
Okay, so is there a call
Any
for the
further-
vote?
Further
Sorry.
comment before we move to a vote on this? Okay. Should we do a roll call vote
Yes,
on this?
please.
Does this include condition 1?
No, you have a specific motion, and this is regarding the architectural for consideration.
So we're going to start on this side this time. Commissioner Maddie, please.
I vote no on this condition. I don't think that we should be asking a minor subdivision to reference chapter 170-26.
Thank you.
I'll vote yes because I believe that the condition in this particular instance, at this particular location, is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the values that we hold dear in Lewes.
Yeah, I vote no. I don't sense that we got clear guidance from council, and I don't think it's enforceable.
Yeah, I'm going to vote no. I just don't think, I think this is a little bit of an overreach on our part, quite frankly. It is up to the applicant, and I think we should respect that.
I vote yes because I think it is consistent with the requirement of the comprehensive plan that the historic character of the city be reflected in every subdivision in the city. And also for the reason explained by my colleagues earlier, because the area is particularly sensitive, being in an area which is close to the canal, on the byway, and also very close to historic properties that are located between the drawbridge and that specific location.
Thank you. Very good.
I vote no. After hearing all the comments, I think the applicant has heard us loud and clear.
I vote yes, because it does very much reflect the comp plan. And again, I think it's just important to give this as an option to mayor and city council.
I vote yes, because I believe that this is encouragement, which is consistent with the ordinance, section 170-26. And the words consider here could simply be, yeah, we considered it, we rejected it. But they considered it at least, and also for the other reasons about the unique special location of this property. So I think that having it in there is useful as a recommendation that we are sending to City Council. So for that reason, I vote yes.
So the motion fails because it was a tie vote. Because there was not, it was 4-4, the motion fails due to a lack of a majority vote. So we have another potential condition, that the houses to be placed on lots A and B shall front Gills Neck Road. I need somebody to say that as a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that the houses shall front Gills Neck Road as Janelle stated.
That works.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Great. Another
Any
roll call?
discussion?
Yes. Any discussion? Thank you.
That one can be up and down.
Yeah, let's just do this up and down, unless there is controversy here. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed?
Okay, that one,
The ayes have it.
it's unanimous vote. So the next one would be that the planning commission strongly recommend that the mayor and city council accept Lot C for future open space.
I would make that motion.
All right.
I'll second.
Great. Again, all in favor, of the discussion, excuse me? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed?
Great.
The ayes have it.
Okay, so now you need one more motion to recommend approval of the minor subdivision with the 2 conditions that were voted for. Which
I move that motion.
Thank you.
Great.
I'll second it.
Again, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed?
And I need a roll call vote for your reasons why, because this is a land use decision. And it can be very simple, that it complies with the subdivision code and it complies with the zoning. And then if somebody agrees with that, you can say, I agree with those requirements.
Great. And why don't we start on my right, Commissioner Ewald, please?
I approve this motion because it does conform to the City of Lewes code and is appropriate for a minor subdivision. I think that's sufficient. Zoning, yes.
Yep.
Great. Commissioner Thompson?
Yeah. I agree as well with my fellow commissioner, Ms. Ewald.
For the same reason explained by my colleagues. I say yes. Yes, I voted yes.
I vote yes for the reasons stated.
I vote yes, as with the reasons stated.
I vote yes for the reasons stated.
I vote yes and agree with the reasons stated.
I vote yes because I think this will be helpful to the city council, and I think it is some good work and some good thoughts here. So I vote yes.
As a unanimous decision, and this will now move forward to mayor and city council. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And I do want to thank the applicant again and everyone and the public who has turned out for this meeting. So thank you very much. Okay. All right, so moving right along, code clarifications. Boy, oh boy, this is a big one. I am wondering, okay, this is the open space zoning district.
Which you have discussed for about
Yes.
4 to 6 months now.
Let me suggest, I do want to try to tackle this. If this does evolve into a lengthy discussion, I may propose that we postpone this. But we might be able to dispense with this fairly easy for the reason that the city planner just said. We have had a lot of discussion here already on this topic. And the major issue is that there's been a lot of confusion about what is open space and where it applies. And what we are talking here, the charge that we got, just to remind everyone, we all know this, from City Council, was to look at what we're proposing is community open space. This is not, we had a whole subcommittee, which many of us here served on open space. And we met in this room a dozen times, or, that's a different open space than the one that we're talking about now. Community open space is, we have been asked to look at what is going on to community land. And so I'm sorry, go ahead, Janelle.
The topic has been asked, and I apologize
Yeah.
for interrupting. I just want to make sure everybody's perfectly clear. The mayor and council have asked for guidance for when they get requests for exhibits and buildings on land that is owned by the city and zoned open space. They are asking for guidance and some criteria to be used. And as part of that, there was definitely concern about how do we distinguish between the OS zoning and the open space and communities. And there was consensus that maybe just renaming the community open space to community open space in the subdivision code. But mayor and council is still looking for that guidance as when they get a request from nonprofits or others who lease the land or would like to lease the land, of what criteria should they use when considering long-term exhibits and buildings. This does not include the temporary art exhibits that are approved by the city's public art committee. So again, as you've been discussing for several months, is should there be a lot coverage percentage? Should there be a maximum building height? Should there be a maximum building size? Should be there a maximum area that a group can have, for, and again, these are just recommendations for criteria for mayor and council to use when they get a request for a train or a museum building or a clock. Or other things. And at your last meeting, you did ask staff to provide aerial photos of the city parks, and I did do that, and I actually did the entire beach in order from Roosevelt Landing down to Johnny Walker Beach, so you can actually see that is owned by the city. It is still city land, so the city could do something with it, but I think we're gonna leave it as beach because people like it that way. Park extended, George H.P. Smith Park. When somebody wants to put a permanent exhibit, what criteria should they use?
Right. Exactly. Thank you. That was a good.
Hopefully that was helpful.
I've looked at the criteria. I think it's reasonable. I think there's always going to be some space for judgments with this, and there's some ambiguity naturally in this. I think we would get in trouble if we started to use words of, shall, or those kinds of things can tighten you down into spots where you don't want to be. I understand the flip side is, we want to have very, it should be very clear. But I think, I think the give and take on that is got to be built into this in some fashion. So in the form of criteria, and not so much worried about what's exactly the, you're a foot too high or you're this too much. We should, be careful of that kind of thing. And we should ask anybody who's proposing these kinds of things to consider this criteria before they come. Because I think that's what they're looking at, is that there's not a lot of criteria before somebody comes to the city council with an idea.
That's a very good call. Commissioner Matty.
What concerns me is the big open space is diminishing throughout the city. We have, if you look at Stango Park, there's the big pavilion. There's all the trees that have been planted. There's no place for kids to go play ball where there was before. There's no place for people to go throw their ball for their dog to run. That's what I would see go on in that place. And so, as I said at our last discussion, I think that there should be a moratorium on any exhibits or anything in the big open space so that we have places for kids to play.
Yeah, I would second that, Mr. Chairman, if I may have the floor. I second that, and I think we are going to supposedly have more kids at some point with the Dutchman's Harvest and other property. That's not going to happen. No, you don't think?
No, I'm not having any children.
No, I meant we collectively.
We as the city of Lewes.
We as the city of Lewes, yes. Yeah. So I think we have already put a lot of encroachments on the open space, and I like the idea that we stop for a while, and that if there is a particularly meritorious application, we can always look at it at that time, but for the time being, I'd like basically everybody to be put on notice that the area of building on open space is finished.
So, yes, I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner.
I'd like to address the shall issue. I'm unfortunately quite jaded from serving on this commission for a long time and on H Park. When we have anything less than shall, someone will, and someone has. And every single time there's been a loophole, someone finds it. And I'm sorry to say that that is the reality of Lewes today, but the money talks. So I think if we are going to if we're going to enact something, some guidelines, they have to be shalls. But I also support the idea of we have enough built in our open space. My question is for Janelle, are there other avenues that if we do not address this and we don't permit things on open space, that if a cultural group or something happens where they feel they want to build something reasonable, is there an avenue for them to go to apply for a variance or special use?
So it all depends on what the appropriate use is. It has to be one of the permitted uses within the open space zone. And again, what you are focusing on is the open space zone land that is owned and maintained by the city of Lewes. Because there is open space land that is
I know
owned and
all about
maintained
that.
by private properties. This is not what mayor and council has asked you to look at. They have seen pressure from outside parties and groups to place exhibits and permanent structures on the city land that is zoned open space.
Yes.
And they have asked for guidance, and it sounds like maybe that the city needs to stop allowing, unless it's already in their lease, because depending on what the lease says, like the library had the ability to build that pavilion because that is part of their leased land, that maybe there should be no more permanent structures or exhibits allowed within the open space zoning district. But again, all of those items go to mayor and council. They've just asked you to provide some guidance if they get, for the next time they get it, and it sounds like you want to tell mayor and council to tell the group no.
And
is
the other
my
part of this
understanding.
too, that I do want to follow up is, we're also,
Wait, can I just interject?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, what would prohibit mayor and city council from saying no?
That's up to mayor and council.
Right.
Nothing prohibits
I mean,
them from
city
saying
land
no.
already.
It's they,
And-
I think they've
wait,
just,
Janelle, let me stick with
Yeah,
you. I mean, did they
please.
ask us to write some equivalent of code or something? Or are they just asking for some
May I speak
criteria
to
and some
that?
guidelines?
they've asked for criteria and guidelines.
Yeah, which is mushy.
Since we have
Yeah.
a member of the city council here, let's ask for a clarification.
Thank you very much, Chairman. What council is struggling with is, this is an area that we are really looking for guidance from the Planning Commission. You know, earlier in the meeting, I spoke about the opportunity, the fact that we on council look to you all to become subject matter experts. We look to you to study, take the time to study these issues. This is one of these issues.
Yeah.
And it has been a real problem when a organization comes to council and makes a pitch for use of open space. And the nature of council is to oblige the entity that's making the pitch. But that might not be what's best for the city.
Right.
So, this is an opportunity for you planners to help shape, to advise us on how we should think about this.
Let's go,
Any questions about
Tim,
that?
you know, that's interesting. I think what you're hearing here is though, is that you guys should fall back on no. I mean, really, your impulse should be no, okay? And then if someone comes and gives you an exception for doing it, an exceptional community cultural center, whatever it may be, what we're saying is, you know, I don't know, maybe I'm putting words in people's mouth. No, don't do it, because we have we don't have that much open space. So your gut should say, sorry, but tell me what your story is, and maybe we can make an exception if it's something exceptional for it, right? But so my suggestion would be no, sorry.
And if the body called the Planning Commission, if that's the consensus, that is impactful for the council. That's a
Am I wrong?
decision.
I mean, that's everything.
Okay, does that make sense?
let's hear from city
So-
planner and then Commissioner.
Because we're running short on time, my understanding is, based on the consensus of this, there's a possibility of a motion that mayor and council, a recommendation from this board regarding criteria is that the planning commission recommends that the mayor and council starts denying requests for the use of permanent structures and buildings within the open space zoning district, and also recommend the changing of the open space in chapter 172 state community open space for the subdivisions.
Right, so
Which
that would
is
change the
privately
name of
owned.
it.
Right.
Typically, it's
Correct,
all
yes.
privately owned.
But it's
Yes.
always called open
I
space.
It's very
So-
different.
This is a real
That's been a
important-
source of confusion.
Yes.
Please, Commissioner Thompson.
I've got two comments. My one is really a question for Alex. What's our liability in telling an organization we won't know?
So generally, the city can do what it wants with its own land.
Okay, okay, all right.
Yeah.
My
So-
second question is, and we touched on this in the last meeting, if permission was granted, that it, whether the criteria of how it's used, meaning it's for the good of the public, not good to a subsection of the public, is that something we can condition as well?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if it's helpful for city council, but you could have guidelines saying that structures are only permitted if determined necessary for the health, safety, welfare of the city. Then city council would have to make that determination. And that would be permissible, yeah.
So
Right.
no's the first thing.
Yeah.
I think it would be cleaner if we had a motion saying that we recommend to the city council to establish a moratorium for the time being on any additional construction on publicly owned open space, and that if a meritorious project comes to the attention of the city council, the planning commission is open to the idea of reviewing it and giving a specific advice at the time.
So my only concern there is using the word moratorium.
Yeah, prohibit.
I would just say you recommend they stop allowing it. I can't come up with a better word, because
Prohibit.
because a moratorium means you're going to take a larger look and look at something, and you've spent 6 months at this, and you're like,
Deny.
Mayor and
That we-
council, no.
The motion, as I phrased
Uh,
it, but use the word deny instead of moratorium.
Chairman Ennis, I would like to
Yes.
say, to add to Janelle's motion, open space owned and maintained by the city.
Okay.
So that's clear.
That's what we're talking about, community open space.
Owned.
Or maintained.
And maintained.
So
Yeah.
two conditions, but must be.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify, so we're speaking only of, it's all zoned open space, but we're speaking of only the land that is zoned open space and managed by the city. We're not speaking of parcels that are land leased.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, just, that's what I wanted to
Correct. That's
double check.
why the clarification.
So I would actually suggest for wording that we state it in those terms that, that we deny any,
I gotcha. That you recommend that mayor and city council prohibit the placement of structures or in exhibits on land zoned open space that is owned and maintained by the city.
Excuse me, if I could, Tim, I
I
would
get that
suggest too that with that last applicant, thinking about donating that large parcel to the city, you guys start thinking, or somebody within the city start thinking about this, its use, and what exactly is going to be allowed on that piece of land, and what is the most appropriate thing. And look at it from the standpoint, to Mary Linda's point, is, wow, we've lost a lot, and we don't have these types of open space any longer. And so maybe this is the parcel we say, you know what, let's set this one aside to be something more meaningful than just whatever, couple bunch of trees, whatever it may be, okay? This is an opportunity for the city. If you're gonna jump on it, think about it now rather than just take it and then try to fit something in later.
Right. And I'm encouraged by, and yet I also don't know enough, because I haven't seen anything in writing, with respect to what possible conditions the buyers, are going to place on this property. I mean, there's been some representation, but we're really not sure.
Go ahead. Just a quick question. I'm still not sure that that's exactly what the council is hoping that we were gonna do for them. But, how would this have impacted the Overfalls, project that which we loved, which we basically loved?
So
Thought it was great. Would that be stopped? Not now.
Possibly, but I think it really depends on what their lease said. It would have not stopped the pavilion at the library.
Right.
It
Yeah, but
may
it was-
not have stopped that little museum building at Overfalls. I'm not sure,
Okay.
because I
But
don't
I was
know.
just wondering.
But it
Yeah.
would
I think you're
stop,
right.
other things from taking over
But in-
city
but
land
it-
by
let me
organizations.
just
I would like to make.
hang on, can I
first-
just finish my thought?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Regardless, the space was there, the lease, but it was open, there was lease conditions, but that was generally speaking, open space, leased, not leased, whatever it
Yes.
was. And we thought it was really great.
Yeah.
Mostly thought it was great.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. We said a lot of nice things to them when they were here.
Yep.
And, so that's why I'm a little worried about just saying, I don't think it's, enough, it's gonna help city council at all to hear us say, don't do anything.
Right.
But anyway.
First of all, housekeeping, we're gonna, I propose that we extend the meeting for 20 minutes.
And 20 minutes, I feel like we're on a race.
We're
Miss-
already used up your 30, so this would be another 20.
Another 20.
You have a motion.
So
Miss-
that would be till 9:20. So is
I thought
there?
we were on
Mr.
30-minute increments, though.
No,
I thought
you,
that was
no,
our.
you,
Mr. Chairman,
whatever.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Once we get past 9 o'clock, we
Mr.
start going.
Mr.
We're
Chairman,
going on 7 soon?
Alan, just go.
Yes.
we have got to do this comprehensive plan thing tonight, and we've got to do it right. I don't know whether it's going to take 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but we've got to do it.
So how about a motion to get through finish E1 and F1 and then, really defer everything else because there is nothing on one and the
I
other is
would-
just
I would like
updates.
to give my H part
Well, yeah, we have to do public
report, because
comment.
I've never, ever given one.
No, you've given them.
They gave one.
Okay,
But-
let me just say to finish this up, and this is my view, is that city council has asked us for advice and a recommendation on community open space. I'm gonna start using that phrase consistently now.
No,
I'm sorry.
no,
Open space
no.
zoning.
Community is private property that is open space and subdivision.
You're talking,
We're talking about.
the
city-
open space zoning district,
Yes, open space.
if that
zoning.
helps. Sorry, I jumped in there.
Okay.
We're just
Let's-
talking about the open space zoning district.
Open space zoning
District.
district. Okay,
Everything
let's
that's
start
colored
using
green on the,
consistent
on the,
language
yeah,
there.
the open space zoning district is what you're talking about. The OS zone
Okay.
is what you're
That's
talking
what-
about.
Call it city open space, is that a kind of a?
You-
There's
We
a
need,
lot
we need
that's not
shorthand here that's gonna work.
The official zoning classification is OS, open space. And we're talking about, so again, what I've heard is a potential motion to prohibit, to
you got
recommend to
seven-
mayor and
seven
council to
choices.
prohibit the placement of structures and/or exhibits within the open space zoning district that is owned and maintained by the city of Lewes.
Okay, we need to come up with something a little more catchy than open space zoning district.
Lands on the open space.
I understand that,
land-zoned
but
open
that will
space.
require
That's the
a
next.
comprehensive rezoning for all the lands that are open space,
How
zoned
about
that.
green? Adam suggested green, since I'm holding it up.
So,
This is why we don't go on too long here.
So-
Because we're all getting a little punchy. But, let me just, I'm gonna call it open space zoning district for right now.
yes.
This is just my view, and it's consistent with where Commissioner Wolf seemed to be taking us. This has got to be on a case-by-case basis, because just as we heard on the Overfalls, when they had, no, not on the preserve, on when
The
in
Overall Falls
park,
Museum.
there are specific cases. The land that may be donated to the city, there may be a real crying need to put a bathroom there. Or when somebody first said
Okay,
fountain.
okay, so let's
No,
make
no,
this
I'm
perfectly
just
clear. What they have asked for is when a group comes before mayor and council and asks to place a permanent structure or exhibit, if the city determines that they need a playground or a bathroom or a water bottle filling station, that is something the city has the right to do. What they have been, their concern has been is when third parties are coming to mayor and council and asking to use the land that is zoned open space for
Right.
exhibits and placement of structures and placement of exhibits. And that's their concern, and that's what they were looking for.
Right,
So-
because in effect, the open space is becoming developed and is no longer meeting the
Right.
spirit of what is open space.
But yeah, the
Okay.
use is a,
And that's what we are trying to get a better understanding.
So my understanding is that somebody may want to make a motion that would recommend to Mayor.
Let me finish my comment first.
sorry.
But no, I'm well aware of that. I'm well aware of that. What I think is going to be, what my sense is what's going to be helpful to city council, and there are 5 members of city council, that we provide some criteria that they can then use to point to and say, have you considered the criteria that perhaps we develop here, that we develop tonight, and that we approve, that is going to help them decide yay or nay on a particular proposal that comes before them. I don't think we can anticipate all the possible exceptions and uses that could be. I mean, you could use your imagination to come up with something. It may be that some people think, okay, well, we just have to leave it open for kids to play ball. That is a very laudable goal here, but there are you could use your imagination and come up with other scenarios where there is a particular use that someone wanted to propose to mayor and city council. I think we give them criteria, and that they then can use that when they are trying to decide yay or nay. But it's going to come down to the city council having a backbone here to say, no.
Those are fighting words.
Not that they don't, but I think you get where I'm going with this. That we give criteria, but I firmly agree that we don't have a lot of mandates in the recommendation. Of course, we don't mandate anything. But
I would be really comfortable with the lead statement that says, we value our open space, it's limited, we need to curtail the use of the open, all that kind of stuff as the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And say that city council should be very careful with making these decisions, and these are some of the criteria that could be used as they make those, but the approvals should be limited. Something like that, I think, is maybe, I'm not sure.
So what you could do is recommend approval of the potential criteria in the staff report with the understanding that, first of all, so let me think, that you recommend the prohibition of placement of structures or exhibits within the open space zoning district that is owned and maintained by the city. However, if there is an exceptional project, an exceptional project that the mayor and the council should consider, that they use the criteria that are identified in the staff report.
Let me ask our member of city council here, would that be helpful from your perspective to the city council to have?
I think it would be helpful,
that?
but I would actually ask this question, or make this suggestion. If you're shaping that kind of recommendation, I think you should also create a opportunity for any request to be referred to Planning Commission for review. So that, in fact, you all would have an opportunity to, look at it carefully and really review it possibly again outside of the realm of a political body making this decision.
So
Okay.
that would actually fall under whether it qualifies for an administrative site plan or a full site plan. And if that is actually something that mayor and council then could say if they felt that they would like review by, because I'm going to guess, depending on what park, the Parks and Recreation Commission may want to have their input, and that they can then forward it to the Planning Commission or the Parks and Rec Commission. Or both.
Right.
But I think that's something a potential motion would be that the recommendation of the prohibition of the placement of structures and or exhibits within the open space zoning district owned and maintained by the city of Lewes, unless there is an exceptional
Meritorious was the word, meritorious
application, that then you would use the criteria that are in the staff report, and that the city council then has the ability to forward that application for a site plan review to any potential reviewing body.
Correct.
No unless. It's no unless.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that a motion?
I don't know, does somebody want to make that motion?
If you're capable of
So one thing we need to do is just, we need a motion to extend this meeting. I'm going to say now till 9:30.
You have 11 minutes left.
And go to Commissioner Roth's concern, I have an idea about the, what we're going to do with the comp plan.
So-
Let's finish.
Right, but you need a motion to extend the
We need a
meeting to
motion to
9:30.
extend the meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
Great.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Okay, so, let's see if we can ask for the city planner to restate what our motion, what the motion would be, as far as giving some advice, and guidance to city council on this, issue.
So my understanding is that the planning commission would like to recommend that the mayor and city council prohibit the placement of structures and/or exhibits on open space zoning within the open space zoning district that is owned and maintained by the city unless there is an exceptional application. Then the mayor and city council shall use the 5 criteria identified in the staff report and may then forward that application to the appropriate body for additional review.
Could we say, unless the proposal has exceptional community, cultural or historic method?
Well, wouldn't that be
merits?
part of the
I
criteria?
think that would be the exceptional
Okay.
an exceptional application that would have to be considered. Does somebody want to make that? Thank you.
Great. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Oh, wait. Well, we
Yeah,
had
you need a
discussion.
second before you can discuss.
Yeah.
So we got a second.
Great.
Now
Okay.
you can discuss.
Discussion on the motion that was just read by the, go ahead.
Is the criteria, the staff criteria, the criteria we're looking at, or can that be amended?
Potential criteria.
I just went with what was in the staff report. If you don't like that, you can amend
No, I
that.
just went of going back to, and maybe it's not a good criteria, but, the good for the for the public. You know what I mean? One of the criteria that it's.
So you would like to propose a friendly motion that the extraordinary
putting a
application should be a cultural, historic, or community-friendly application?
No, I wanted
Oh.
to make it a criteria.
Oh.
Not make it part of the motion.
Oh, okay.
If it's this list of criteria, or whether you just reference the
No, we're
potential
gonna-
criteria.
The potential criteria are part of the motion. I just didn't read them.
Okay.
Does that make sense? The 5 criteria that are in the
Oh, it's
staff
part-
report
Okay, got it, all right.
are referenced, so I didn't have to read them.
The principle is no, unless it's an exceptionally meritorious project, in which case the city will look at the criteria.
Right, no, I understand that. I
Yeah,
just, if
the-
the criteria went on to say that
motion on
it
the
needs
table,
to
on the
be,
floor.
it needs to be something
So
that
we-
is for the good of the public, not for whether
so that
that's
is
worth
the-
being criteria, that's all.
Right. So that is the motion that is on the table right
Can
now.
I just ask a question, please?
Please.
Really good discussion, appreciate that. But to be fair to you all and what you are possibly advancing to council, could I have some recognition that you all agree with the 5 bullet points described as potential criteria? This is no criteria.
No, they've been the same criteria for the last 3 months.
I understand.
So-
I just want to make sure that that's
I d-
acknowledged by this body, that that is in fact what you all would be advancing.
I mean, as potential criteria, I actually have a problem with this, and it goes to what Commissioner Wolf had said earlier, and that is that, something like the structure exhibit shall not exceed 15 feet in height. Well, okay, if that's potential criteria, we cannot envision in the future whether something would come along that would be taller than 15 feet in height.
Remember,
And
Again,
can do it,
They can do what they
this
want.
is a recommendation of
they can say 20.
of criteria. This is not code.
It's not on it.
Right.
You don't have to worry about it.
It-
So
it-
I think these are very general guidelines.
Yes.
that with the caveat that they are just that, and this will be very clear just by what we do.
So we're not gonna call them
then I
the
think-
criteria, you wanna call them 5 general guidelines to use?
Or suggested criteria.
Yes, something that gets at that.
Is that okay with the motioner in the second, that it's not criteria, it's suggested guidelines?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Thank you.
This is why we do, okay. So,
Is there any further discussion?
any further discussion? Okay, we're gonna move to a vote then. This doesn't need to be a roll call.
No, no.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Great.
That's a nay.
Okay.
7 yes, right?
It's 7-1, the motion passed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, that, and I hope that is helpful. And can I just make one little housekeeping note? I know that the mayor has asked that when this is considered by city council, that at least there be a member of the planning commission available, so that it's not just a piece of paper, but that someone can give the background on this.
I think they're gonna
to
vote
the
for
city
you,
council.
Rich. I think that one's yours.
We volunteered to. Okay,
Okay.
so, let me say
never
this.
misses a meeting.
Now we're on F, and I agree with Commissioner Roth. This is arguably one of the most important things, the most important thing, I'll just say, that we have as a commission to accomplish. And my strong sense is that we have a couple of things in front of us now. One of the most important is to move expeditiously to the point where we have a good contractor. I have done these exercises before. A good contractor makes all of the difference in getting this done. We have 10 responses to the RFI that went out. The city planner has heard from a handful of us about those 10 proposals or responses that we got. And what I would like to suggest is that the RFIs gave us a lot of good material that we can cherry pick from and say that this is what ought to be in an RFP. The next step here is we need to get a request for proposals out on the street. That needs to be done so that we can get responses to that from maybe even more than 10. So that is the next step. I'm going to ask whether the city planner could take the responses from us, look at the RFIs and the responses that you got from us, and put together a draft request for proposal. And we will all have the ability to look at that request for proposal and comment on it. And it will be in draft form. And that once we get that, that we need to then have a special meeting as a commission to go through that and or to give comment at least to the city planner on it, and get these responses in, and decide who it is that we want to come in and either physically or virtually be on the screen, that we can then evaluate the proposals that are being made to us. That is the next most important step here. So let me ask city planner for her thoughts on that, and what is the most expeditious way to move forward here?
So I appreciate and really liked your idea. I would suggest maybe not holding a special meeting to discuss the RFP, because that's going to take time. I've gotten comments and I put together a little likes and dislikes. from the members I got, and if there's any others that you would like to submit, I can use this and start putting this into an RFP of what you guys liked and would like to see in the RFP. There were some things that were provided that were dislikes or were concerns, because there were a couple from there were mentioned that a couple of the submissions were submitted by people we see regularly at meetings, and they had concerns about, that, which I understand and respect. But at the moment, we're just looking for, like, what did you like that we can, and we'll of course use when we get to the RFP, is what worked and what was interesting about the different RFIs. And I got a really good list from the people who submitted information, that I think I can start working on an RFP, and then I can send it out. And if you can respond individually and not to all, if there's like issues, because you're behind. You are barely a little over 2 years out, and this is going to take all of that 2 years. And by the time we get a consultant on board, you're going to be less than 2 years. And if anybody has any additional information, by Friday afternoon, get me likes, what you would like to see, and then I'll start drafting an RFP, and then I will send it out and go, hey, what do you guys think? Again, if there's a typo, I will catch that, because I usually get 2 to 3 people to review that before it goes out. But if there's something substantial, let me know, because I want to make sure I'm trying to get everything that you guys want in this RFP.
Yeah.
Because then I'm going to put it out to, like I did for everybody else, and I'm going to tell you, I've had several of the consulting groups go, where are you guys at with this? Because they're jumping at the bit to make a submission.
That's great.
Which I think is wonderful.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question? And it goes to this point that Janelle just raised. And it's partly a question for Janelle and partly a question for Alex. Are we required by law to put this out to all comers, or do we have the option of specifying amongst this group of 10 who we want to narrow it down to?
I'm going to leave that to Alex.
Let me express my concern. What I don't want, I don't know what the rules are for RFPs, but I don't want to end up in a situation where somebody, in an effort to get the contract, just lowballs their bid, and we don't get who we really want.
So I'm going to answer that question. We do not have to take the lowest bidder. The way I have been taught to write RFPs is we take the qualified bidder, and it does not have to be the lowest bidder, and that is put in the RFP. Now, be aware, there's a budget that we need to be mindful of, because I need to be respectful of the budget that has been set from mayor and council. But yeah, you do not have to go with the lowest. You can go with the most qualified, and you can actually pick more than one if you want. If you really like the way this one group does public outreach, we can hire them to do the public outreach and hire another consultant to do other things based on what you like. That's perfectly okay as well. I can write the RFP, and I've done it in the past, that we can break it out based on, and we can award the contract to different groups.
The other half of this question is, and I'm curious to know what other commissioners think. If we put out the RFP and suddenly there are 20 respondents as opposed to 10, are we then in the position of, now we've got that much more to wade through, that much more to consider, and we're putting ourselves further behind, as opposed to taking this group of 10, narrowing it down to, whatever it is, 6 of the 10, 7 of the 10, 8 of the 10.
Alex,
Yeah.
I just wanted
And then
to
I have
add
a
to the
suggestion.
response Janelle had, that competitive bidding is required under the charter for certain contracts. An exception is for professional services, so there's no competitive bidding required for professional services. That being said, I'm not certain what the city policy is for doing that, but there could be an exception if there'd be a reason to avoid competitive bidding.
This is professional services.
Yeah.
Let me, yes, please. I have a suggestion.
When you say likes and dislikes, the way I approach this is concepts of what we need. That's what I was looking at, like, someone who's involved in traffic studies was one of them. That's what I put down, but I'm also looking at, people are looking at the applicants of who they liked. I was really looking at what we need to have in our RFP.
Yeah, you can look, there was no criteria as that. It's, did you like, like, oh, somebody liked, oh, they worked with this group, or somebody liked, I liked, they did that type of outreach, or they had that experience with that group or that topic. It's all, it's like, okay, we want somebody who has experience with historic preservation or economic development or
Deals with a small town like ours. That
yes.
is a tourist town, and okay.
Yes.
So
Can I, just along those lines, it's a very good question. We are not limited to just what was in the RFI.
Right.
That's, I think.
Correct.
Yeah, it was just things.
We can put down our own.
Yeah.
Let me make a suggestion here on, go ahead, Terry.
Could we take a vote to Janelle, basically, to try to limit maybe 5 or 6 people to whom we are going to send the request for proposal? Take a vote.
I think that needs further review. I know it's professional services, but we've never specifically sent an RFP out to just specific people. We've always put it out to everybody. And then I also identified like certain groups, but that's an Alex question.
We have 10 people who have already worked on this. They did a lot of work. They basically are far ahead of anybody else. We would have to start from scratch if we take somebody from.
I think.
Yeah, I would take
we
go ahead.
the 5 or 6 best one simply through a vote that everybody will express to you. You tally the vote. The 6 that
Well,
get.
to be perfectly honest, what I could do is just send it out to everybody who submitted an RFI. That way we are not choosing and not saying somebody did had issues or we didn't like.
Start the process from scratch with people who don't even know who Lewes is and are going to say, oh wait, there's an opportunity.
Can I make a suggestion along those lines? But Alex, please, you.
No, I was just going to add, you might want to check the city policy for contracts, because again, under the charter, competitive bidding is not required for these professional services, so you could be more targeted with who you're targeting, but I would just double check the policy.
The people who wanted to bid and express an interest, basically we had the expressions of interests. The other contractors out there in the environment who did not respond to our first request basically have indicated that they are not interested in working with the city. Why should we solicit them to submit a proposal?
Okay, first of all, we need to extend the meeting again.
Commissioner Wolf had a question.
20 minutes.
Janelle, you made a list of the RFI. You didn't publicly put out an RFI. Weren't those listed parties?
No, I put out a
Okay,
public,
and that-
it went onto the it went onto the
That's good,
APA
that's good.
website.
And
Yeah.
I feel differently about it. If you hadn't selected those RFIs, and then we used that as a criteria as to whether or not we wanted to invite you to the RFP. But if that was public, I think that might help us a little bit. Anybody who wanted to respond to the RFI, you got the leg up on the thing, and now from that list, we're gonna determine who we want to send the RFP to.
It's quite possible the same or fewer are going to submit for the RFP. It's just, there might be somebody out there based on the criteria we have now condensing. There might be somebody else out there. I don't
want
know.
to belabor it, but having done a bunch of RFIs in the past, I've used that as a thing to knock down the list.
Yeah.
To then issue an invitation for the RFP.
Yeah.
If we can do that, I think that's.
I have to check, and Alex and I need to check the charter and the code, because I just haven't seen that done before.
So for tonight, can we leave it at that, Mr. President? Let Janelle do that, and she's going to come back to us maybe through email or whatever, and we'll decide what we want to do next.
Well, I think the next steps are, is there anything else you'd like besides that list that was provided to me in the RFP?
And we have till Friday to get it.
And Friday to get it to me by 4 PM, and then I'm gonna start next week writing the RFP.
The only question that I have, and first of all, is there a motion to extend the meeting for another 20 minutes? We want to leave time
There's
for
a
an
motion
H-part
to extend the
update.
meeting for another 20 minutes.
Great. Thank you. Any, all in favor? Aye.
Who was seconded that?
So that's, so
Who seconded it?
10, is that correct?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Alan's
No, to 9:50, 20 minutes.
Yes. All right. And, okay, we're going to take this thing home. First of all, on that note, and I'll defer to those of you who have experience with RFIs. My experience more has been with RFPs from the federal government, which is a different breed of cat, which has to take the lowest bidder, and blah blah blah. But I'm just wondering if we're not hurting ourselves by limiting this to the people that responded to the RFI. There might be somebody out there who is very, very good, who for some reason did not respond to the RFI, who just knocks this thing out of the park when they see the RFI.
Rich, let's not make perfect the enemy of the good here. I mean, if we're gonna really find that, if we're gonna spend so much time to find the perfect person, it's gonna take us hours and hours and hours. Let's just go with what we have. We have 10 good respondents, and they're not all rising to the top of the crop.
Right.
But let's just go with what we got, because that would be more beneficial to Alan's point. We don't get like a dump of 20 more on top of the 10 we already got, because then we're gonna have to go through all those again. Let's just take the 10 we got, use those and say,
If allowed,
Yeah.
I will do that. If not, it's gonna go out. So I will do the research to verify and let you guys know.
And we're gonna get to look at the draft RFP.
Yes,
So
I'm
we're
gonna
all
draft it
get
and
a
send it
bite
out
at
to you
that
guys for review.
I just
Absolutely.
wanted to make a point to that, they came back to us with what services they offer. Now we're going back to them and this is what we need, and that could be,
That's gonna narrow
that
it
could be a reason to open it up, because now you've said, I just don't want what you guys do in general, I want these items.
Right.
So that could allow, if you went out to more people, someone who says, hey, we can do all that, but.
Yeah.
on the fence
I'm
on that.
persuaded, we'll stick with trying to narrow this down. Let me.
Mr.
I
Chair.
think
Let me
I'm
just-
gonna end up having to send it out publicly, just an FYI.
Yeah.
I think based on city practice and city requirements, I'm gonna have to, but I'm gonna double check, and if I don't have to, I won't. If I do, I will. And I'll get you, but you got till Friday to
We
get
will
me
know.
any more
But it's gonna be
information.
very specific, and that's what your point is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's get the ideas that are outside of even what they've already written to us.
Yes,
You know,
that you-
written.
Because I figure I'll use some of what's in the RFI, things we like, and then I'm gonna add it, draft it, send it to you guys are gonna let me know, and then I'm gonna send this out. And then I have to figure out who I'm sending it to.
And Alan, did you have one?
Well, I mean, if Janelle is right, then my point is moot, but I was gonna follow up on Bill's point before, which is, as he was, if I understood you correctly, it was, you start with the RFI and then you narrow it down from there to try to send out the RFPs to a narrower group.
And you're right, we don't.
None of us have mentioned any names here.
Yeah.
But, and I won't do it unless somebody says it's okay, but there are
No.
a couple of,
Numbers.
there are a couple of respondents here who, in my mind, have obvious conflicts of interest. And I think those names should be eliminated from the pack.
Right.
So if we're talking about 10, I would start off right off the bat by eliminating 2 out of those 10 and just send it to the 8 others. I mean, if you want.
And I do know which
If we
2
have
they're
the
talking
latitude
about.
to do that. Yeah.
And I'm
I do
well
too.
aware of the 2 they're talking about.
Let me go on and just make a further point on this. And it is that there are 9 of us now. There are now 9 commissioners. And it is not efficient, nor in my view feasible, for 9 of us to be doing all this work as a group. I think what we need is volunteers to form a subcommittee that is going to bore down into this exercise and I'm talking about the exercise right now of getting a contractor on board. All of us are gonna still have a bite at that apple. But if we can form a group of, and let's see, by, a show of hands, how many people would be interested in serving on such a subcommittee? And then further, as we get further down the road on this, again, the work is going to require that we divide and conquer here. That there be an area, say, in housing, where we have a commissioner who's obviously got some very good expertise in that, and they are gonna take responsibility for that section of the comp plan. There's another person, environment, et cetera, transportation. So we're gonna have to get very smart about how we go about this exercise in order to produce a plan that is going to win an award. I want this to be something that the rest of the state, and region repair to.
We want to go to the National Planning Conference and get their planning award. That's what you want.
Yes.
Yes.
That's right. But we have a lot of work to do and only 2 years to do it in. So that would be my suggestion, and to get some advice.
So
Commissioner
in
Wilk.
terms of the selection process of a contractor, is your experience been that you would use, scoring rubrics that that either a smaller group, section by section, would look at, let's say we have 5 finalists, I'm just making something up. Is that the kind of process you would go through with scoring rubrics, that we could look at those, or some smaller group of this group is looking at those, or by sections? You said 2 people are gonna score each applicant in the environmental area, and 2 people are gonna score each applicant in another area, but are you seeing it that way, or
Well,
how do
we're
you
gonna-
see the decision process?
So in the RFP, there will be scoring criteria. So they will know how they are being scored and what the criteria is to be scored. If you want certain specificity, thank you, it's not gonna come out at 9:35 tonight. Let me know, and I'll put them into the criteria. Because I think working with a small city, working with a beach town, working with environmental issues, with, our demographics, those are all things that I think we're gonna score on, because that's what we want. We want highly creative, engaging outreach. That's gonna get scored
My point
high.
was, that was how you can break this
Yeah,
group
we
up
can-
and have some, instead of somebody saying, oh my God, I gotta look at this.
Well, I think who's ever gonna, because I'm gonna be one of the reviewers, and because I need to make sure they meet all the criteria just before they even get to you guys. Because if they forget something, they're out. Because you gotta meet the criteria, just to make the submission. That then, if you wanna create a subcommittee, like the chair suggested, and then whatever we get, everybody reviews those and scores them, and then they can come to me and I can look and see who scored the highest, and then it can come back. And if if we're in, again, it looks like it's gonna be a close vote, then we bring it to the full commission and everybody gets a bite at that apple.
Yeah, and I would
And
even
to-
suggest, if it's possible somehow, to have that criteria that you could, at least initially, if we get 10 applicants, that we screen it down to 5, and those are what we're gonna study, the 5 of them, or 3 of them, or whatever it is, that kind of thing, that we don't score everybody. We find the most qualified from that somehow, and then really invest in making that decision amongst the 3 or 5 that are finalists, if you can.
I will work on that.
May not be
You'll
easy
see
to
the
understand.
scoring mechanism when so if you've got ideas for that, send them to me, because
Yeah.
I'm always seeing how we can look at scoring mechanisms because again, to make it fair. So I believe the chair was looking for volunteers to be on a subcommittee to
Yes.
review the RFP.
First of all, discussion on that. Let's open that up for discussion, because what do folks think about that, just in terms of efficiency on the way to go?
Here's a question, again, for Alex. Is there a limit on the number of people that can or have to be on it in order to make this productive, as opposed to turning it into a cumbersome operation?
So it would have to be a public body.
In other words, if it was a subcommittee of 3 as opposed to a subcommittee of 5, it would still have to be,
Would just reduce the quorum, would be 2 of the 3.
which might make it even less productive, because then if 2 people talk to each other, it's a problem. Okay.
And again, you can always talk to me and go, hey, I have these questions.
Yes.
And then I can pass them to the subcommittee and go, these were the questions that were asked. And we are not violating FOIA because nobody's responding. I'm just providing information. Like when somebody calls and goes, hey, I have a question about this application. And then I respond, hey, I received this request for information, and I provide it to everybody because everybody gets the same information. So I have lots of experience with this. So I think it's back
Are
to,
there any other thoughts on, any thoughts on moving to this structure to more efficiently be able to address this particular task at hand?
I think it makes sense to divide it up. I'll be honest with you, this is not fun work. This is more of like, in my mind, a who drew the short stick.
Yeah.
Than getting on something where you're, a change maker. But the final outcome is so important.
Yes. Yep.
We all know our strengths. Paperwork is not mine.
Yeah.
So I will be honest in that going into this.
Great. Who would like to draw the short straw? Who wants to? Who would like to chair this, and who would like to serve on it?
just means you get to hang out with me more.
So there's a
Can we
Benny.
nominate anyone?
There's a Benny.
And you don't have to figure that out tonight. I think,
No,
start thinking about it.
Yeah,
I'm not
think
sure,
about
I'm not
let's-
sure I want to chair, but I'll serve on it if it's a subcommittee of at least 5, because the idea of not being able to have a one-on-one conversation with somebody is beyond my comprehension.
Getting the attention. I would like to, I've been on those, on the small subcommittees, and sometimes it's actually great because
Yeah.
there is no sidebar, because any conversations that you have are during the meetings, and yes, sometimes the meetings get long, but you get work done. You really get work done. That's how we did the ADU, and
Yeah.
we had long meetings sometimes, but it was okay because we were equally engaged and we were able to include any conversations that we might have wanted to have.
And to be perfectly honest, you're looking at 1 or 2 meetings, depending on how this gets set up.
That's right.
You're gonna
This is
get
not a
them,
long
you're gonna
term.
review them, and you're gonna discuss them in
Yes.
a public setting, via a number or letter, depending on how we're referencing them, so names are not being used. And then we'll discuss the scoring. Actually, you're gonna score in private and then bring the scoring to a meeting. And then if we need to interview them, we can interview them in a subcommittee where, then again, as the public, whoever shows up on Zoom for the other 4 members, 5 members, whomever, because you're not discussing that application. And then the final decision does come before the full commission.
Right. That-
But usually
that I
a
wanna
subcommittee of 3 has actually worked really well.
What
We've
what
had
is,
the-
what
I'm
is
just
the
writing it.
timetable?
We had
And that was rather big.
and
It was sometimes big.
Honestly, we're
Yeah.
looking at September anyhow, because you have until Friday to get me homework on what likes, and then I gotta put the RFP together, which is gonna take me about a week or so. Then we gotta put it out, and it needs to be out for at least 30 days. So we're looking at late August, early September by the time they get back in. I know.
So the truth is, I'm not going to be,
Okay.
I'm not going to be back in town.
Okay, so we'll
Let's,
figure this out. We do not have to make this decision tonight, because you have 6 minutes left.
okay.
And
let's-
Or
Alan,
7,
I
I'm
would just
sorry.
like to add
and we have
that
at least 2 for H Park. So.
that on these sort of when you're on these doing these subcommittees, one person has to be here in the room, but people can participate through Zoom too. As
Yes.
long as you have one person.
No,
Yes.
that's right. And then it's on Zoom, and Blue has us open to the public, so it's,
Yes,
So
it's,
it's,
and if anybody from the commission who's not on the committee, they can listen, they just cannot participate.
okay. Well,
Okay.
let's leave it there for right now.
Okay.
And let's get this thing out.
Did I get
Let's-
two other
let's-
colleagues here?
The what?
Did I get two other colleagues to volunteer here?
I will volunteer.
Okay.
I'll volunteer. I think you're becoming the chair, though.
Alan, I can help you with
So
that.
we
It's not
need-
as hard as you think it is.
So we need one other really good.
I told you I will be in Europe in September first.
Oh, that's
So,
right.
okay.
And actually, I'm gonna be, that's it, right. I've got travel coming up, which I'm gonna.
Again, right now, let's just get it together, 3 members, because I'll figure out when you're gonna get together. So,
Actually, that's a good point. I may
so
not.
who else are we voluntolding to be on the group? Don't all fight for it.
That's right, Melanie.
No, Melanie is done in September.
Okay, yes, that's Mallory.
So,
No,
otherwise,
that's
she
only
cannot be.
And let's,
I will if I can. That's
Okay, we'll put you down as a maybe, and then we'll need a backup.
okay.
The alternate. It's like a jury alternate.
Let's just,
Be the,
Somebody
no need for a motion on that one.
nope.
Let's, yeah, that's a business, that's
Yep.
getting business done. Let's move, there's one thing I want to talk about before people, and that is, for the meeting in, which is regularly scheduled the third Wednesday of the month in August, talking about, I am going to be in Scotland, probably drinking some good single malt or something like that. No, that's a long planned trip. I have talked about this very briefly with the vice chair, saying that he would need to plan to chair it. I'm thinking that we don't have a meeting in August, and let me give a little bit of background on that. I know that the mayor already has expressed, because I've heard her talk about it, giving the staff a little bit of a break in August, which if we don't meet, that gives staff some needed little downtime.
We already have a meeting.
We have a meeting in August already, that is a business meeting, that's right, on August 12th. And I would, so my recommendation to all of us is that we do not have a regular planning commission meeting in August, that we pick it up in September, and we actually got a lot done tonight, so but anyway, let me just, before we move to reports, let me ask for a comment on that.
That's why you
Anybody?
get to sleep.
It may be an unpopular comment, but it's once a month. I feel like we could check some things off. There's got to be some things that are going to come up, and
So how
I
about,
feel like we're always behind.
Can we extend the
How about-
August 12th meeting to include a little bit?
how about we do, the special meeting on the ADU, and then depending on what we have on the agenda, which right now is the bylaws, that we then have a special meeting after the ADU discussion.
We can do ADU and bylaws on the same meeting, it's not that much, right?
Right, so we might be able, because honestly, I'm not gonna have a comp plan update for you guys at that
Right.
point. The
And we don't
RFP will
have
be
any
out.
more subdivisions or,
There are no applications that are
us, right.
before you. There's a couple of code changes that have come from mayor and council, but again, they have not been at the top of the priority. They've been bumped for the last 6 months. So if you want to add a few things, we can do that.
okay. Let's, that sounds perfectly fine to me. Extend a meeting that we'll already be here for. Again, I'm going to push for us to be expeditious during all of that. So,
Seriously.
What? I'll
I'm
try
bringing
and
the
break
single
cookies.
malt to that.
Are we meeting at 6:30 or at 6?
6. You guys were good at 6.
6 o'clock, August 12th.
So ADU
Too
and
much
then,
fun. All right, so now we're moving,
And this will not be televised, right?
What?
It will be on Zoom.
Oh, yes, it
It'll
will.
be on Zoom.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is a public meeting. It is, yep.
All right.
You are
update
inviting the
and-
public.
And direction from the mayor and city council. So we have
None.
a illustrious member of the city council with us. Any updates?
No, that's a none on the agenda.
Good, okay.
No,
No,
it
no,
is.
no, I'm gonna give you the.
On direction
option.
from the mayor and council. If we're talking G1, that's a none.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. But
H1 is
Actually-
different.
Actually, if I can interject on that, I mean, I did have an exchange of emails with the mayor going back, I think you may have been on it. She may have been a council member, but I'm not sure. But when the county council adopted its sediment erosion control regulations, I passed it along to members of the council, and I think the mayor did suggest that the planning commission take a look at that issue.
It has
I don't
not
think
been
it's-
formally sent from council to the planning commission, because it would have to be done in an open meeting, and that has not happened at this time.
Okay, so,
This is county sediment control.
taking a look at the county's sediment erosion control regulations, my suggestion had been that the city take a look at what the county's done, and the mayor wrote back in an email saying, I think the planning commission should take a look at this, but I'm not sure what
No,
the.
any direction from mayor and council actually has to be made during a public meeting, and they have not made that
Yeah.
recommendation
Yeah.
to the
Maybe
planning
her,
commission, because that's how things get onto the agenda.
Yeah.
And that's
Is-
how we haven't made a
Yes.
referral, so.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
perhaps.
So maybe in the
But I'll
future,
call-
maybe in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay, you're
despite
technically
the
ahead of
fact that
time.
it says none on here, I'm still gonna ask our liaison if there's anything that you wanna report other than
Yeah.
sediment.
Okay, so now we're on to number 2, H2, right?
Yeah, that, he gets H2.
Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's
Okay,
right.
good. Yeah, I'm gonna.
We'll go
report-
back to H1.
Yep.
We'll go back.
And we're saving the best for last.
See?
And we're gonna try to wrap up here by
Okay,
10
real
o'clock.
quickly,
So let's go.
let me just tell you that the council has adopted a hearing date for Donovan Smith conditional use site plan.
Oh, good.
It is August 5th, and it will be held here at 5:30.
Okay,
And that was a recommendation came from you all.
great.
Let's see, I can also confirm, we've already discussed it somewhat, that the approval was granted to the developer of Roosevelt Landing with full acceptance of all the conditions that came from this body.
Thank you.
It was, they were unanimously accepted. And there were several concessions made by the developer. They were approved as well, accepted. And then there were several conditions that the council placed. And one of them was, in fact, chapter 170, 26, section 26, that Mr. Poiré spoke about
Yeah.
earlier. And then the last thing is, that I have for you is, we voted and approved an ordinance revision to chapter 170 and 197 regarding public notice.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
You guys have been busy over there.
Yes.
And now we have, and I really am interested to hear this, Deborah. So
Yes, it's,
please.
well, I'm going to make it brief. I was appointed to H Park for another 3 years at the Mayor and City Council meeting on Monday.
Yep.
Thank you, and I enjoy it tremendously.
We confirmed her, actually.
You can, yes. And I think something I would like to ask everyone to take a look at, it's going to be coming out, but is our standard and guidelines that Kevin Mallinson, who is serving as the chair now, has dug so deep and done such a unbelievable job on, with also the assistance of Deb Hansen and perhaps Mike DiPaolo also a little bit, or
It would be at the entire
yes, and
H
we've
Park
all
has done an amazing job at
Yeah,
providing
we have all gone
updates
through it.
and changing the way the guidelines and standards are going to be in code and utilized and making it a lot more user friendly.
So it is, the draft is available online.
Yes, it is.
Through the H Park page, and I would really recommend taking a look, because we're pushing it to where it should be. And we are making up for laissez-faire choices that have occurred over time, that we have lost a lot of buildings that have lost their historical, contributing status because too much has been changed on them. And I would say we have right now a buck stops here H Park. We really do. We have many applications. I won't name any specifics, but just to give you the sense of what we're dealing with. We have a combination of small, easy things like we have already had. I'd say the aging in place topic comes up the most. And we really try to give as much leeway to that as possible. Extending to the next section is we have a lot of people who are buying homes in the historic district and envisioning much more grandiose homes than they have purchased. So we are dealing with some very, very, very large additions that, plans that are presented to us that I would say eat the smaller houses. We have that. We have, material change. It's a microcosm for what we see here, which is frankly, everybody wants something, and most of them want something that isn't allowed or isn't permitted. But we have to remember that we have a historic district. It is a choice to buy in that historic district because there are also places outside of the historic district. And it's a challenge. People are leaving often, a lot of people don't like to serve on H Park because applicants don't always leave happy. But we've been able to make some compromises on some quite challenging applications where the applicants met us because we held our line. And they said, okay. So I think that's something to take away and remember.
Be consistent.
Well, no, that we were strong and that they have said.
The
Okay.
applicants and the commissions have found common ground to move forward with projects that are appropriate in scale, massing, and rhythm
Thank you.
for the historic district.
Thank you very much. And it hasn't been us going 2/3 of the way and applicants.
There has been
Making small
compromise
changes.
and working together.
They have, that many times the applicants have chosen to adapt their plans to the guidelines.
There has been a lot of work on both sides
Yes.
to address.
So I think that's important, and
That's
we're
right.
making
We
progress
have,
there. We're trying to protect the first town in the first state.
Thank you. Thank you for that report. And we have BPW. We have.
Yes, something I wanted to share, in case you didn't see it on their website. Lewes Electric customers can get $100 for recycling an eligible appliance. So if you're getting rid of a refrigerator, freezer, window air conditioner, or dehumidifier, you can get $100 for it by having it picked up at your house before September 30th.
Wow. That needs. I see Bill Shull is not here. We need to get that.
It's on the BPW website.
Is there any public comment?
Is there anybody blue online? No. Great. Any additional public comment? We've had some already. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Great. Thank you. We are adjourned. We stand.